the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the SMOAK Show. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the SMOAK Show on 365 Sports with David SMOAK and Craig SMOAK.
All right, here we go on this, Wednesday, halfway through the week. David SMOAK, Craig SMOAK, the SMOAK Show. This is 365 Sports, and a bunch of people today who help us out, from Rez and Garrett, Houston and Andrew and Logan. We hope you've had a great day. And Craig SMOAK, good afternoon to you too. A little bit of an update with Brennan Sorsby, and of course the story as we await. We talked about this quite a bit yesterday, but Sorsby and Texas Tech, and the judge is recusing himself.
Yeah, the news coming out earlier, and I actually saw this yesterday, so I don't know when exactly this started going around or if I just saw some early speculation, but I recall seeing at least a tweet or something mentioning this possibility yesterday, and then today it turns out to be in fact true, that the judge in charge of the Brennan Sorsby case, Philip Hayes, who is a double Texas Tech graduate, has in fact recused himself from the case because of the conflict of interest. And what's up to chat, by the way? What's up, everybody out there watching? Thanks for joining us. But this is notable because, yeah, he is a massive Red Raiders fan, and we've seen in other places, looking at you, Ole Miss, courts in Mississippi, where this has come into play. This is a situation where we had somebody actually in chat mention that, who was it that sits next to him?
Kim Coulter.
Yeah, Kim Coulter, one of our loyal listeners that sits next to him in the stadium. He said that, I sit next to him, and so it leads you to think that, that could probably go pretty favorably for Texas Tech, but he's stepping away from the case, and you know what? That's the honorable thing to do. That's what a judge in his position in this situation should do. Take notes, Robert Whitwell of Oxford, Mississippi. You're not supposed to stay on the case and then get emotional in delivering a verdict at the end of it. That's not what's supposed to happen. That is goofiness. This is what's supposed to happen in a situation like this. So, I commend Philip Hayes for doing the right thing, the honorable thing in his position, and deciding that he's too close to this to be partial. And so they're handing off the case. And I saw a mention where it looks like the judge that will probably take over has some ties, but not to Texas Tech, but some ties to, I think it's either Baylor and or A&M, some combination thereof. And so we'll see what that looks like on the other side. But I think for a guy who's a double graduate, based on reports, a person who's at the games, I think once your name was out there, it was going to be really hard to not feel the pressure, and also to probably not have like some personal stake in this, because what do you think that Philip Hayes wants? He wants Brennan Sorsby to play quarterback for Texas Tech, but he's right in that he shouldn't be the one making that decision because he does have some skin in this game. So this is how it's supposed to go. This is how it should work. There's just certain places with a history, not surprisingly, of probably not always doing things the proper way, that are like, no, we're going to like brag about the home court advantage and absolutely like take advantage of that. And that's not how it's supposed to go. So I was very happy to see this news, actually. Like it restored some faith in me that the courts in some places still operate the way that I think that they should, in as unbiased a manner as possible. And when there are conflicts of interest, you don't try to just sneak past that or downplay it. You say like, no, like I don't think I can be partial here. We need to have somebody else in charge, because the other part of this is not just about Philip Hayes being a Tech fan or whatever. It's like, this is a very important case. It's a very important decision that's going to be upcoming. And I think, if you're already kind of leaning one way, if you were to go that way and you make the decision that all of a sudden gambling's okay, that just opens up the most massive Pandora's box. So I think it's a really important decision. You need to have people in place that are going to make the right decision for the right reasons, because this has an effect not only on Tech, but on the whole world of college football and college sports. So it needs to be taken seriously, and making a move like Philip Hayes did was a serious and honorable move. So I commend him for that.
Yeah, and so that's the case. Let me ask you this, though. Why is it, and I understand why Philip Hayes would be a conflict of interest, but others graduate from other schools, and you wonder if any of those schools would benefit from a decision. Does that ever get brought up? Just asking that question.
What do you mean, does that ever get brought up?
If a guy from A&M or a guy from Baylor or a guy from TCU or whatever is the judge, and it's a decision to be made about a school that is a rival, you hope that never comes into play, but you just never hear it that way.
Yeah, because I don't think we've had too many cases where that's the case. I mean, the Ole Miss case was an Ole Miss judge. The Oklahoma Owen Heineke case was an Oklahoma judge. It's been home court, home lawyers in much of these situations. And yeah, I think if you're a Tech fan, you look at the possibility of an A&M or a Baylor judge now being in charge of it. And I guess you could look at it the other way and say, oh, well, they're going to be out to screw us now. I guess there's only so many things that you can do. You can't just, well, we're going to go pluck some random Illinois fan out and we'll place him in Lubbock, Texas to make this decision. Like, you can't do that. So you're kind of at the mercy of who you have. But yeah, I'm sure there will be some segment, if Brennan Sorsby doesn't get his way, that looks at it as, oh, well, that was the Baylor judge that did that, or the Texas A&M judge. And for those people, I don't think, like in other areas of life, they're going to be convinced otherwise. So all you can do is go about doing things the best way that you can. And I think no matter where the judge is from, the fact that we're talking about that as being of such importance is why it's an even bigger deal that Philip Hayes is not taking advantage of that situation, because that's how it's supposed to work. So you are doing the best you can to make the right decision and be as impartial as possible. And so I think, yeah, you're in danger of, it's a guy from Texas or it's a guy from A&M or whatever, but you just hope that these judges do their jobs and make the decision based on the facts at hand. And I think in this Brennan Sorsby case, the facts are very clear. The facts are not even disputable. The facts are facts. He bet a lot on a lot of things for many years, including his own team at one point. And you can debate on like how bad that is or whatever, but those are the facts. Like, those aren't deniable. There's not a lawyer that he's going to hire that's going to come in and be like, oh, y'all thought he bet, but he really, no, we know that he did. So this is just a question of whether it's still deserving of a lifetime ban or not. And whether you're a Baylor grad or a Texas Tech grad, you have to know that this has major ramifications. So you do your job and you make the right call that should be made regardless of where somebody went to school or not. But as we've seen, this is notable because in Oxford, Mississippi, there was a judge who was basically crying as he delivered the Trinidad Chambliss verdict, and it was an embarrassment to the judicial system. But I don't think they cared because Trinidad Chambliss got his extra year. So I think stuff like that brought more of a light to it. You didn't hear too much about it in the Owen Heineke case, even though he had OU law presiding over his case. And maybe he just wasn't a big enough name for it to matter as much, or maybe people just assumed he'd get that home court treatment and it worked out that way. But I don't know. I think people can always find a way to feel like, well, if it's this, it's some conspiracy, right? We live in that world now where you can make a conspiracy or somebody decides to on anything that doesn't go their way. But this was the right call by this judge because he clearly had a lot of skin in this game, and it was going to be very hard for him to either be impartial or to make the decision that's probably the most likely decision to be made. And I think it's as much this maybe as anything of, yes, saying, yeah, he doesn't get to play college sports anymore based on what we know. And then he has to go back and go sit in the stands in Lubbock, and they go, you're the one that took Brennan Sorsby from us. So there's probably some part of that he wants to avoid as well and not be a part of that decision because, it's not something that's probably going to go their way.
Paxton sent me a text earlier today. He said that he's recused himself because he probably knows that Sorsby doesn't have a chance. And then I said, well, it also could be because he said, my mic's not on. I don't think it is. Is it? Okay. You wonder if he also realizes that there is a glimmer of hope, and he just feels like he needs to walk away in case there is?
I don't think there's a glimmer of hope. I think the glimmer of hope was having a guy like him in the judge's seat. And I think the fact that you just said about Paxton there is, yeah, it's probably correct of he doesn't want to be the guy, like I just said a second ago, to be the one to make that decision, because I think the decision here is very clear. So, yeah, I think he wants to put that in somebody else's hands and let them blame the Baylor judge or the A&M judge or whoever. But I think everybody knows what the decision is going to be, and based on the facts that we know. And so, yeah, I think he's probably smart to not be the one to make that, so he can go sit back in the stands with his season tickets and not be the guy who banned Brennan Sorsby. He can put that off to somebody else.
All right, so there's other news too. The Big Ten had their spring meetings last week. Of course, the ACC. Next week it'll be the SEC, and the constant tug and the pull and the pushing and the shoving and the turf war of what's going to happen with the college football playoff. Is it going to stay at 12? Is it going to go to 24? That's what the Big Ten wants. And now everybody but the SEC wants that. And the SEC would rather just keep it at 12 or 16. Tony Petitti, Big Ten commissioner, saying that they didn't even discuss really 16 during their spring meetings. They want 24. He wants 24. The conference wants 24, although I don't think it's unanimous. But they don't want to even think about 16, so they were solely focused on going to 24, and if not, they will stay at 12 because everybody has to be in agreement here. And then on top of that, Petitti saying that there's nothing really that makes sense financially if, in fact, the college football playoff was to go to 16. He has certain algorithms and numbers and all of that based on conference championship games also being lost in the shuffle. That he just feels like the Big Ten, it's going to be 12 or it's going to be 24. We are not going to bend to 16, and the SEC will meet about this next week.
Awesome. Then we're going to have a 12-team playoff for the foreseeable future.
And I'm fine with that. That's exactly what I'd love to see anyway.
That's what needs to happen. I think if Greg Sankey's smart, then he says, okay, well, we're not going to have a 24-team playoff then. I think to bend to the Big Ten in this regard of, well, we're going to do this or we're not doing anything. Okay, then we're not doing anything. We want 16 or we're not doing anything. Well, we're not doing that. Okay, well, then guess what, guys? We're at a stalemate and we're going to be at 12 teams in. And it's really that simple. And I think everybody wins except for Tony Petitti and maybe a few others like Fox, who clearly want to have some more stake in the game, and that's become very clear with some of their moves here. So, yeah, I'm totally fine with Tony Petitti digging his heels in. You could tell he loves the smell of his own farts more these days than he probably did before, because they have the cachet and the momentum and the championships to be able to throw their weight around a little bit more than when he was just the TV guy that took over from Kevin Warren. And now with the 3 straight national titles, you are in a much stronger position as far as defeating that SEC narrative and being on a more even, if not even a slight step above as far as kind of the perception goes. And I think that they feel that. I think you can sense they feel that kind of the way they're sort of talking nowadays. But it's still your 50% versus Greg Sankey's 50%. And you still want 2 different ideas. And it doesn't really matter what the Big 12 or the ACC or whoever wants. It's what those 2 parties want ultimately. So I say, go ahead and dig your heels in on 24 and say it's this or nothing. And Greg Sankey, I hope you say it's 16 or nothing. And then I hope you both stand your ground and all of us win, because we get to keep this 12-team playoff that's much better than the 24-team alternative. And maybe it's not better than 16, but I'd rather have 12 than 24. So, yeah, if that's the choice, 12 or 24, then let's stay at 12. And don't bow to Tony Petitti, because then the next thing will be, well, we're doing 36 or we're not doing it, or we're doing this or we're not doing it. Like at some point, some powerful people need to be told no. And I think in Tony Petitti's case, he's had a lot of things go his way. But this whole, well, we're doing this or we're not doing anything, like it's some ultimatum, well, call his bluff and say, all right, well, we'll stay in a much better playoff size for the fans out there at home.
One of the things about it, and Petitti kind of threw a little bit of a Sankey-ism. It was a quote from yesterday, I guess it was, that about, we have been pretty good. We're in a pretty good spot. And that's the way the SEC has felt, and they still do. And now the Big Ten's got a little bit of that too, we're doing pretty well. Here's a couple other things from Petitti before we get to what would have happened. I have a number we'll get up in a minute of what would have happened since 2014 had 24 teams been in the playoffs and how many teams would be involved. That in a moment. Petiti, when you go to 24, you unlock a lot of really good ideas and a lot of really good opportunities. That's an obvious reference to a Big Ten SEC scheduling arrangement. He added that at baseball, Major League Baseball never had to convince people that having more people in the playoff race was a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I get the whole having more people involved thing. I definitely understand that. I think there is some merit to that, but I also think there's the same opposing argument about you're watering it down because then just a bunch of teams make it that aren't necessarily deserving, so to speak. So, yeah, if you're advocating for a much larger playoff and doubling the field from one year to the next, which is the part that's really hard for me to swallow, is just the fact that you're taking something that's looking like it's turning into something pretty cool, and you're saying, let's double it. Not let's incrementally do this. And I guess that's to be expected because you tripled the last playoff. You went from 4 to 12, so now you want to double 12 to 24. And hell, I mean, I really don't put it past them at some point to win a 48-team tournament. That sounds crazy, but does it, guys? Like, does it? I mean, can you imagine? It's the March Madness of college football. Like, I can already see the taglines and them selling it. So, yeah, I wonder still where it ever stops. But, yeah, their heels are dug in. There would be more teams that have made it. I've seen the graphics that people have made up of, like, here's like the 7 Big 12 teams that would have made it, and here's the 10 or 11 SEC teams that would have made it. And, yeah, that's appealing to some people out there. That access is appealing. But I don't buy that access is excellence all the time. I think they're just trying to stuff the playoff to appease Fox and to put more of their teams in the playoff. And I don't think they give a damn what the fans think. And I don't think that this is necessarily the best thing for the sport. So I hope that he and Sankey continue, no matter how strongly they feel about their idea versus that idea. I hope that they stalemate so that we stay where we are and just tweak what we have and let that breathe a little bit more. But yeah, there's more access, but it's also how you want to look at it. There's more teams. Yay. You got a better chance, but there's also now teams with 4 losses or on the verge of 5 losses that you're allowing into the playoff, and I don't know that I love that.
Another note or two before we get to the number of teams that would have been included in the last 12 years. Petiti on a potential 16-team college football playoff. I don't think it works economically. Citing data for the loss of championship games at about $200 million, with the SEC getting about half of that. And that's for the autonomy 4 conferences. I don't think that gives enough access. So you lose the championship games. Now it appears the extra games in the college football playoff, especially in the first round, would bring in about $80 million. And then I saw a note from Stuart Mandel, and he's made it clear he doesn't like the 24, and everyone has their opinion. Some might want 4. But he was talking about, does everybody think that all of these networks are going to get involved in the bidding? Is there even like numbers that people think that if ESPN keeps all of it, or if Fox gets involved, or TNT, or CBS, or whoever else? It is an idea because we just say, okay, let's go to 12, let's go to 16, let's go to 24. And yet there might be some discussions behind the scenes, but that doesn't guarantee that people are going to just keep on spending, and yet spending. Fox did not want to be a part of the 12, Craig. They now realize what they lost out on.
Yeah, so there's one group that's already been added into the mix. There's also TNT that's been getting more involved and leasing the games. And so I guess they have a pretty good feel that live content is where all the money's headed these days, and everybody now who maybe was hesitant is more inclined to be a part of it. As you said, I'm sure there's been discussions behind the scenes in regards to this, and so they have a pretty good idea. I don't think that they're just blindly moving forward saying, we have a 24-team playoff and we'll figure out the TV partners later. No, I think that they're pretty confident that if they do that, then they have an immediate lever that they pull where they know where to go next with who to call and who would be on the line to help manage and host some of those games, because you wouldn't do that without having some assurances that, well, there's a reason to do that. At the same time, you would have to be getting assurances, would you not, on what the money involved would be, because why else would you be doing it? So you're being told to some degree, hey, if y'all go to 24 or to 16, here's what that would look like. You're not just, hey, we're going to go to 24 and then we'll call the TV networks and see what they think. And then we'll call the the banks and we'll call everybody else that we need to, and then we'll get them on board. No, that's all being done right now. So they have an idea of what 24 would look like and how appetizing that would be. And yes, Fox would suddenly be involved in that. But I think was there another part to that I'm just skipping over here that was said in that quote? Because I'm just kind of going off on the
that it goes Petiti on potential 16 teams. I don't think it works economically.
Okay,
there's $200 million you'd lose in the conference championship games, and 100 of that is SEC. You would get about 80 of it back with a couple of those first round games that are added. I don't think it gives us enough access. He's not talking about the Big 12 with enough access. They're going to get their access, but enough access for other games and more money, because you're not going to expand. You're not expanding because you want everyone to be involved. You're expanding because you're also going to get hundreds of millions of dollars more than you're getting now.
Yeah, I think he might be a little bit full of it there. I think why eliminate the conference championship games then? Oh, because we need to start the playoff early. So you're kind of creating your own situation, are you not? Like, well, we have to expand for this access, but then we have to kill this. But now we need more money to create this access. And so it's like, so you're creating your own problems and then solving them. And maybe you're just super creative, and this is why you're very successful in business. You're doing all this very intentionally to ultimately get what you want, which is probably what's happening. And I'm just too slow to understand that this is all very methodical. But yeah, you're creating your own problem to solve and to benefit from on the other side. And I'm totally fine with conference championship games still. I mean, I understand the conversation around them. I still see some value in it. I think there was value in them last year. I understand the argument of, well, in the SEC or the Big Ten, both teams still make it. And I get that. There's definitely compelling arguments for and against that you could see both points of view. I don't think it's like, if you think this way, then you're evil, or if you think that way. Like, no, I think there's a simultaneous batch of good arguments on both sides for why both still have merit. But yeah, I think the whole access thing is just a bunch of phooey. Like it's just a guy who wants to have more Big Ten teams and therefore more money and more opportunities. And he's no different than every other college commissioner who at the end of the day works for the league. And so he's doing what's best for the Big Ten, and what's best for the Big Ten is to have more teams in a bigger playoff, making more money with more shots to win a national title. So once you understand that's where his point of view is, and it's not about, hey, let's look out for Texas Tech or let's look out for the ACC. Once you realize he does not give a damn about any of that, then you can see why he's so steadfast in that being the right way to do things.
Also, released by Big Ten Chief Operating Officer Kerry Kenny, the Big Ten ran the numbers since 2014, the first year there was a 14 playoff. 80 different college football programs would have reached the college football playoff if there had been 24 teams if you go back to the first year in 2014. They're bringing that up to show that, hey, you really do have a chance. There's 130 plus FBS schools, and 80 would have made it that didn't make it. And sometimes maybe some teams would have made it 5 or 6 different times, and they haven't made it yet once.
Well, welcome to new bowl appearances. I mean, that's basically what the equivalent of it will be. I mean, if you go to 24, making the playoff will be an accomplishment. But I think as the years go by, just simply making that appearance in the first round and bowing out more often than not is going to be the equivalent of bowl appearances ultimately. I think there are some years where, you can go a little bit beyond that with the right mixture, but they're selling access. They're just selling the hope and dream, and it's a powerful thing, the drug that is hope, that, hey, look, you could make it too. And look, North Carolina State, this is why you should love it. You'd be in it too. And you know what? That's compelling for a North Carolina State. That's compelling for a BYU. That's compelling for any team who's found themselves on the outside looking in or felt like maybe they don't ever really have a shot of making it. Now you can sell them on that, and that is one of the arguments for why this would be the right path to go down. Ultimately, they want to go down this path because they want more money. That's why that's the first, foremost, and really the only true reason why the people who are pushing this want to do this is because they want more money. But they also can sell the side effects of that, which is, yes, you too, Houston fan, you too, Florida State fan. Well, I guess like that's a bad example because they've been in the playoff. But any team that I'm talking about that's been on the cusp or has had no shot at all really has now a feeling like, we can make it. If we just finish like top 3 in our league, we can be in the playoff. And never mind the fact that it's like basically one game and we're out, or never mind the fact that we probably don't have much of a shot at winning it. At least we have that chance. And really, that's the thing in this playoff era, whether it was 4 teams or whether it was 12 teams, it was always the outside looking in. You wanted to have the chance to prove yourself and to prove that your record is what it says and that you are as good as advertised and that you can hang with a certain group. And all you need is that shot. And now they're giving that shot in spades. And I think that's going to definitely be something that wins a lot of people over. And it has, because everybody but the SEC's jumped on board with this thing. So I think Brett Yormark's schools and the ACC and the American and everybody else feel like, well, this is our best shot to make the playoffs. So yeah, it makes sense to us. And that's where we're headed, is just this hope and this feeling of, well, at least there's an opportunity. Whereas for many years, it's felt like there wasn't much hope or much of an opportunity unless you were absolutely Cincinnati Bearcats a few years ago. Perfect. And it was the perfect storm to find your way into that thing.
So so who was it? Graham Coffey, who does a really good job. He covers Georgia. He put this out there. Petitti said the Big Ten, this is in the past, would agree to a 16-team college football playoff if the SEC played 9 games, league games. And the SEC, of course, has done that. And a lot of other people were wondering why they did not, and neither was the ACC. Petitti then moved the goalpost, refused to match the SEC's rule on playing 10 Power 4 teams. He's fighting a proxy war on Fox's behalf. Nothing he says should be at this particular time taken seriously. You realize the Big Ten is owned by Fox. Everyone knows that. And the SEC owned by ESPN. So again, that comment about a proxy war.
Yeah, and this is why I think Greg Sankey needs to stand his ground and not let Tony Petitti get even more of what he wants, because Tony Petitti does not care about college athletics. And I've never been of a different opinion than that. He cares about the Big Ten. He doesn't care about the ecosystem. I don't think Greg Sankey always does either, but I think he does care about it more than
I do. I do think he does. I
don't think he always. Well, I'm giving him some credit here. Yeah. I finish about. I think sometimes that he does. So I don't think it's always he's acting in the best interest of everybody. I think sometimes, a lot of times, he's just the SEC commissioner, right? And he's acting in their best interest. But I do think there are times, like now, where he is acting in the best interest. I don't think Tony Petitti ever really is. So that means that you do need somebody to every once in a while stand their ground, and Greg Sankey's the only guy that can do that. So for as polarizing as he may be, I think he's the guy that you need to hope says, no, we're not doing this, because if Tony Petitti's not going to live up to his word, then when is he going to do that? If he's not doing it now, you mean he's going to do it after we give him everything that he wants? Then he's going to do what he says he's going to do. He said he was going to do this, and then he's not doing it, even though we did what he requested, and he just is not doing it. So you mean now you're going to give him 24 and then he'll do what? No, I bet he doesn't. I bet that he doesn't do what he says he's going to do. So yeah, I don't think you budge on that, and I don't think he's going to do anything but what's in the best interest. So yeah, I'm hoping Greg Sankey's right. And here's the thing: I saw a little clip from another show. I think it was like Next Round or something with Andy Staples, and he was talking about another thing that the Big Ten talked about doing, and why they say they need this expanded playoff. And it's because of the non-conference scheduling. Besides Michigan and I guess Oregon plays Oklahoma State, so that's respectable. But Ohio State and Michigan, we know they go out and they play really good teams every year in the non-conference. They're playing Texas, they're playing Oklahoma. Like, kudos to them. That's what they should be doing. That's the way the sport should work. Is you have Michigan, Oklahoma in the non-conference, especially in an expanded playoff. But his point was that if you look around, there are a lot of other schools in the Big Ten who schedule absolutely, positively nobody with a pulse. Like, unless it's historically some random rivalry like Cincinnati, Miami of Ohio kind of a thing, they're not scheduling anybody for the most part. And the reason is, we will. Does this sound familiar? Well, we'll do that once you do this for us. Almost like the thing we were just talking about. And yet I don't think for a second that if we go to 24 that all of a sudden Illinois and Indiana and everybody else is suddenly knocking down the doors to schedule the biggest and the best. I think that's what they say they'll do. I don't think you have any assurances that's what's actually going to happen, however. So that's the part about when you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, well, then it's hard to believe you. So I don't believe Tony Petitti when he says that, well, if you give me this big thing that I want, then all my schools will suddenly start scheduling, because you already said that. You said that when the SEC was going to go to an extra conference game. Well, once they do that, well, then this, that, and the other. Well, guess what happened? The SEC went to another conference game and not anything really changed. So, I don't believe what he says as far as any assurances go. And if I'm Greg Sankey, any agreement we come to, we're going to have in writing that the Big Ten is going to pass some type of a rule where you have like a mandated this level of opponent, like other conferences do, where you must play a Power 4. I don't know what the language is exactly these days, but you have a Power 4, Power 5 opponent. That is the minimum requirement. And you ensure they do something along those lines. But I'm not taking Tony Petitti simply at his word, because he's already broken his word.
Yeah, it is. It is so interesting, because Nebraska, my favorite program, they suck. They've been bad for 15 years, really since Ndamukong Suh. They canceled the Tennessee series. That pissed me off. Really, that just like, I don't give a reason. I don't care if you need another home game. You're going to play them once at home and once in Knoxville. I don't care if it's 25 or 28 and 30, whatever. That just really bothered me. And we're seeing a lot more. Like Indiana, it worked. And now it's hard to argue against them. And there are some teams that, and then Sarkisian and other coaches last year, like, why should we play Ohio State again? Because that's what your fan base wants, by the way. And that means you might lose that game, but there's a good chance you win it. And a couple of different times when you have, it's given you a boost, even when there was no playoff, to win a national championship.
And I know there's reasons as to why certain years you don't have a schedule, because of realignment, creating a situation where all of a sudden some teams you had scheduled are now in your conference or whatever. It just throws things for a loop, or all of a sudden you have a schedule where you're like double whammied and you need out of a game or what have you. And it's not to say that nobody in the Big Ten is not playing anybody. Ohio State and Michigan, they're not a part of this conversation. They've proven themselves time and time again that they're not afraid to schedule people. So you do have a Minnesota playing a Mississippi State, and you do have examples like that. There are some crossover games, but as far as having like the big banger type of a game, that's been pretty much Ohio State and Michigan carrying the torch for that.
You know who play big bangers? Big bangers.
The SEC.
You know why? Because their fan bases at Oklahoma, Michigan, Texas, Ohio State, Alabama, they demand it. They demand. And I think that even though at the end of last year they could use the argument, and you could consider it either legitimate or whining about why they might miss the playoff. The UT fan base, you could say a lot of things that you want about them. That's up to you. But they damn sure don't want that game to be against someone like Troy. They want bangers. And they're going to get them in the SEC. They're going to get plenty of them, but they also want that one too.
Yeah, and again, it's not that nobody plays anybody. I know at least one team has Notre Dame on the schedule, and there's like Oregon plays Oklahoma State, and there's some games that there's a notable power team on the other side of it. But that was the part of a conversation I caught that I thought, well, that's a really interesting point that was made on that. So the point really for me is less about the scheduling is important, because I think that, yes, an amplified playoff does create more situations where you can lose a game, so you're less scared to play Ohio State. And I do think there is a difference from scheduling Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan versus scheduling like just the random Mississippi State or whatever. Like, you still should deserve some credit because that's a power opponent and all of that. But I just don't trust Tony Petitti to follow through on his promises, because I don't think he's absolutely done that. And you have some years where, like I said, there's just these oddball years. But you know what Penn State's non-con is this year, for example? Mighty Penn State, Marshall, at Temple, and Buffalo. That is their non-conference schedule.
Yeah, and one of those three might be one they've played 100 times, like maybe against Temple. But no, that to me, I don't like it.
Do you know Indiana plays North Texas, Howard, and Western Kentucky?
Yep.
That's the national. They're playing North Texas, Howard, and Western Kentucky. Now, I understand this was made years in advance, but we've also seen where that can change in a very short amount of time.
No, COVID proved you could make changes quickly. And you don't, that game's gone, let's play somebody else. There have been other programs that have picked easy non-conference schedules that have been down for a long, long time, like Indiana was, that picked easy non-conference games because they were trying to get bowl eligible.
Right.
They were. And so there's 3 or 4 wins, and then you got to pick off 1 or 2 or 3 in your conference. Right here, during the early surge of Baylor, their non-conference schedule was pathetic. It was pathetic. But they needed to get 3 or 4 wins and then go find a way to win a couple of 2 or 3 Big 12 games. And they became bowl eligible in 2010. And then they started to take heat when they became a top 10 program because people started to pick apart the fact their non-conference schedule was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, the letter doesn't really matter at this point because that doesn't really
But
play
that's an
into
example of what Indiana was probably trying to do.
Well, Indiana was, just trying to win football games, and now they're a national champion, and they need to play better teams than what's on their schedule. And we saw during COVID that the whole idea that you can't schedule but 17 years in advance is absolute BS. I mean, it's just not true. We saw multiple examples of that. Nebraska's non-conference schedule, and look, I'm sure I could go to the Big 12 and look at a couple schools and point out the same thing, but this isn't about them. This is about the Big Ten and the SEC and trying to decide on a new playoff. And one of the points being made is about Tony Petitti's assurances of give me what I want and we'll give you this. And Nebraska, for example, you know what their non-conference is? Ohio, Bowling Green, and North Dakota.
Yeah, and hell, they might win all 3. Might.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Yeah.
But you still get, Iowa plays Iowa State, but it's Northern Illinois, Northern Iowa, Iowa State.
Yep.
So I give them some credit for at least keeping the rivalry going. But there you could definitely poke holes. And there's other schools like that I've mentioned. UCLA plays Cal, so they've got the California thing going. So okay, that's acceptable. That's good. But yeah, the big conversation, Sark was a part of this, was about the non-con scheduling and what's the purpose of it and all of that. Well, the argument from the Big Ten is, well, if you give us what we want, then everybody will be able to schedule freely these massive games because now there won't be as much of a penalty for it. Actually playing into what Sark said. So we'll see. I just don't trust them to follow through on that necessarily. So if I'm Greg Sankey, I'm saying we're sticking at 12. And if there's some reason that you have to be forced into going to 24, I want on paper, in writing, looked over by a lawyer assurances that you are going to be scheduling like a bare minimum style of non-conference game every year moving forward across the board.
You can still play Power 4 schools, but they don't have to be Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma. But just play those games. Play them. And oh, by the way, you get better when you play teams, even if you early on are beat up by them, because they're better than you. Get better, and then you start beating those better non-conference teams. All right, we got a break. When we come back, we're going to hear from Trey Wallace, Outkick.com. Covers college football. Has done a great job of that. Matt Fortuna will join us Inside Zone at 4 o'clock today. And BYU AD Brian Santiago at 4:30. All of that and more. And we do have news on Jamie Pollard the next day after talking about let him break away and clarifying that and more. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. How can he do that? You have to reach out to him. Go to Petty Clinic, lowt.com online. Reach out to him and tell him you either heard me talk about it or you just heard about what Dr. Petty does. He will set you up to get an appointment with a doctor to get your blood drawn, get the results, look at your T levels, and if it is too low, he can put you in a program to increase your testosterone so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
Broker is your Lennox Premier dealer. Right now, qualified buyers can make no payments and get no interest financing for 12 months on a new Lennox home comfort system. Conditions apply. Call Ray Broker Air Conditioning and Heating Specialists for details and a free estimate.
At Allen Samuels Jeep in Waco, get a 2026 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $32,990. Or take $10,000 off a 2026 Jeep Grand Cherokee Summit.
Come by, let's be friends.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
Extreme Texas weather calls for Ray Broker, your Lennox Premier dealer. Sign up for our year-round comfort plan and keep your home the perfect temperature no matter what the forecast is. Call or visit raybroker.com now. Ray Broker, your air conditioning and heating specialist.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
All right, here we go. This 3 o'clock hour rolling along. Trey Wallace, Fox and Outkick with us on 365 Sports and does a great job of covering college athletics and more. And Trey, we could play bingo here or pick a number. You want to do the Sorsby new judge, the Sorsby case, the Sorsby decision, eventually the back and forth, 12, 16, 24, all the court and lawsuits. Where do you want to start, sir?
How about this? How about you just pick it and I'll try to answer it for you or give you some logical reasoning for where we are at.
Yeah, no, I'm having fun when I say that. So
I know.
The judge changes in the Sorsby case. That's what should happen. Do you see any chance other than a Hail Mary of Sorsby being eligible to play in 26?
I'll be honest with you. It comes down to me. It's not the gambling on Romanian soccer and doubles tennis and the hot dog eating contest. To me, it comes down to what he did in his first year at Indiana, and that is bet on the Hoosiers football program while he was a part and on the roster. It doesn't matter to me that he was on the scout team. He played in a game, so I get that he redshirted, but he played in a game that year. Automatically that hits. And there are a lot of things I will argue with the NCAA about and say that they get wrong. But in this case, it is hard for me to side with Sorsby, especially after reading the full 500-page complaint that they have filed against the NCAA. And I get it. He has a gambling addiction. But at the same time, this is not a slight to the young man at all. But at the same time, he writes his own essentially affidavit in the complaint saying that the best thing for him is to get back around his teammates and build up chemistry and essentially get ready for the 2026 football season. And to me, as somebody that's had a very, very close family member pass due to addiction in the past 6 months, I look at this seriously. And if he has that strong of a problem, where he's betting on over 10,000 games and whatnot, to me, it kind of falls on deaf ears, his statement, though I know he wants to get better. I'm just saying you're lining this up for the NCAA to say, hey, okay, we can prove this, this, and this, and you get a judge. The thing to me also is a judge really going to come out and say, well, the NCAA is really hampering how much he can make. I don't really care what the rules are. And the NCAA was a part in some way of him forming an addiction to gambling, which he admitted, by the way, in their filing that he started in high school. So it's hard to put this on the NCAA. Now, I say all that to say this. I don't know what a judge in Lubbock is going to do. I've seen cases and I've covered them. Charles Bediaco at Alabama, where he had a local judge at first. That one got kind of tossed around a little bit. Joey Aguilar at Tennessee, he had a local Tennessee chancery in their court, and he got denied his. So, I don't know what the judge is going to do. I just feel like the case against the NCAA is lacking in a lot of areas.
Yeah, Trey, I think you nailed it on all points. I'm with you. Like, there's nothing but a clear decision here as far as I'm concerned. I mean, like, it's the only out from him being banned is just some judge who decides on this particular day to say, you know what, I'm going to give this young man a break. But all of the evidence points to lifetime ban. Like, it's not even a question mark there. And I did wonder, and I've said this every time we've talked about him, I hope he is in rehab for the right reasons, and I hope he's getting it addressed. And I wondered, does he really have a problem? Does he not? I think it's fair to say, yes, he does, based on some of the things you mentioned there, thousands of bets, but like Romanian soccer and like Turkish basketball. And I think you said the hot dog eating contest. I mean, there was nothing he wasn't betting on seemingly. So I hope he's actually getting it addressed. But yeah, this seems very black and white from a decision perspective.
The other thing that was pointed out to me, so I did a FOIA request, which is a Freedom of Information Act for folks out there that might not know that. And I looked into records for every state that he went to as an away team for Cincinnati. Say that would be Kansas or Colorado or New Jersey. And while most of those states came back and said they have no record of him, it was pointed out to me by two gaming commissioners as well. And they essentially said, hey, look, we can only look at stuff that is on the betting apps like FanDuel, BetMGM. I don't know. Right. The regulated apps. They can't track the unregulated apps, aka the offshore accounts, offshore betting accounts. They can't, these prediction markets that are out there and whatnot. I didn't even know I could gamble in my home state of Alabama until I went home 3 weeks ago. I popped on my FanDuel just for the heck of it. I'm like, wait a minute. How am I able to gamble on prediction markets? Like, so what I'm getting is there's a reason why the NCAA asked for all of his records, asked for his Venmo, asked for his social media, asked for his bank accounts, because deep down, they probably know that there's a lot more than just what's on your regular everyday app that you pop up on your phone and use. And so I that could come into play as well. I just don't see him playing football this year. And if they judge, I'll say this too. If a judge rules in Jeffrey Kessler and Brendan, who's the attorney for Brennan Sorsby, one of the attorneys, if they rule in his favor, we already got a massive problem, but we'll have a bigger problem coming out of this. I don't see how a judge could just logically say, okay, cool, yeah, that's on the NCAA. We're going to grant you an injunction, and we think you can win at trial, by the way.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Totally agree. And I commend the judge in Lubbock for stepping away. He's a Texas Tech season ticket holder. He's obviously got a lot of pull and just a home base there and history and everything else. And I think he knows too, like, I'm going to have to rule against him, and I don't want to be the guy that disqualified our starting quarterback. But and he also knows that if he doesn't do that, and he just plays the fanboy thing, not only is he not doing the honorable thing that he should as a judge, but he absolutely, to your point, opens up the biggest can of worms we've ever seen in the NCAA is to try and corral.
I mean, the first thing I did when I found out who the judge was through the court doc is I went to his website that he was running. He was running for district court judge. I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, and it's on there. It's like, I'm running based off integrity, towards the system, and I'm going to get things right and fight for the community and whatnot. And I'm okay. And then the other picture that I found, not the one that was making the social media rounds with him next to the mascot, I found another one of him outside the Texas Tech Stadium holding up the gun. And it's like, okay, you got to go. Like, you cannot be tied to this. So I do give him credit for the NCAA not having to say, hey, would you please recuse yourself? He did it himself. So I do give him credit. He probably saved himself a lot of weird conversations at the tailgates and the donor dinners.
And you go back to what they did in 24 to the NCAA with Hunter Deckers and others, Iowa State, Iowa, then all of a sudden they might have a lawsuit. Whatever that would be, I don't know, because wait a minute. You told me I couldn't play and I lost an opportunity here and there. So you open up that can of worms. Yeah, it looks like it's got to be the consequences are what they're supposed to be, which is done. You're done.
It's real simple for me. And as somebody that's been covering this now for almost 20 years, it's real simple. He broke the rule. I don't care that it was 4 or 5 years ago. That does nothing for me. You still broke the rule. And by the way, you were still gambling over the last 4.5 years, whether that be at Indiana or Cincinnati. And look, I hate to say it like this, but we don't know if he's not been gambling in Texas. I mean, they can say certain things in a court document, but we don't know. So I think there's a lot of things to this. I wish him the best of luck. His football career is not over. He's going to get a shot at the NFL, whether that be in the supplemental draft or next year's draft and whatnot. He's going to get a shot. I just think Texas Tech is not about to have to spend about $5.5 million on a quarterback, and they're going to be relying on Will Hammond, the backup quarterback, when the season starts.
Totally agree with you. Trey, elsewhere, there's the tug of war going on with the college football playoff, the Big Ten. We're getting what we want or else, and Greg Sankey, well, we're getting 16 or else, and could we all win by them just agreeing to stay on their sides and we just remain at 12 for a little while longer?
Please, for the love of football gods around the country, have them completely just go at each other and not come to an agreement. And by the way, I don't think they are. We all read Tony Petitti's comments last night from out in California. I'll be headed south to Destin, Florida, on Sunday for Greg Sankey and the SECs. And while we're here, you got the Big 12 and the ACC. Obviously, they want 24 teams because that brings in more revenue, gives them more of an opportunity to make the playoff. I understand it and I respect it, especially in this era of college athletics where you're trying to create that additional revenue to pay for all these rosters that we all signed up for. But at the same time, Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, they get along on a lot of things. This is not some type of relationship. They're not ignoring each other's phone calls. They're talking, and they're talking about every day. They just don't agree here. I will be curious to see what Greg Sankey presents to his athletic directors and presidents next week in Florida for one reason. The reason why the SEC essentially moved to a 9-game conference schedule was because the caveat was there was going to be expansion to the playoff. That's what was told to the athletic directors and presidents. So now you're sitting here and the SEC coaches, which, by the way, their opinion really doesn't matter because they could be fired at the end of the year and whatever they say, it just up in smoke. And that goes for any conference and any coach. But at the same time, you look at it and, the SEC's like, well, wait a minute. Why do we just strengthen, or pretty much why did we just hurt our chances of making the playoff to essentially say, okay, you can expand the playoff. So you're going to hear a lot of sound bites over the next 5 to 6 to 7 months. You're going to hear a lot coming out of Destin next week. Heck, some of it I'll be writing. But I think we're at a point now where Tony Petitti is sitting at 24. And he's got the ACC, the Big 12, and the group of 5 or 6, however you want to phrase it, Notre Dame around him. You got Greg Sankey over here. Well, both of them control what happens. If they're not agreeing, that's okay by me because I don't want the playoff expanded to begin with. I think we're fine with where we're at.
Totally agree with you on
Both
that. As far as like the non-con portion of this, a lot of going back and forth. I know that's another thing. Sark last year of like, well, why are we scheduling Ohio State if you're not going to give it to us? So you mentioned that there was this assurance if we expand, we're going to, have more access, or if we add another game, we're going to have more access to the playoff. How does non-conference scheduling play into this as well? Because you look at some of those schedules, kind of like not all things are created equal here, even if there are mandates or whatnot in place.
Yeah, not everybody's going out and playing at Texas versus Ohio State. Right. Not everyone is going out and, they canceled the Georgia-Florida State game, though they said they're going to make it up on a neutral site. I could go on and on with games. I think that there are some schools within the Big Ten and the SEC. And the ACC, Big 12 does it as well. But I do think that there's been a lack of the big games, and I think that essentially hurts. Like, I know Bama and Florida State are running it back and whatnot, and that's great for them. I know Michigan and Oklahoma are running it back this year. To me, the biggest thing that stands out in college athletics is I'm so sick and tired of these neutral site games. Keep these games home and home. You are hurting your fans. You're hurting your donors. You're also you're taking away an environment that is so special. I understand why. I'm going to bring Auburn and Baylor up in this.
Dude, I was just saying the same thing. Yeah.
Yep.
I understand why they did it. They're going to get a payday. They're going to go to Atlanta and blah, blah, blah. Auburn's going an hour and a half down the road to play in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Essentially, Baylor's going to travel an hour and a half further to play this football game. And it doesn't make sense to me because you can play that game on campus. Look how fun it was when it was played on campus last year. And I look around the country at different games. When Texas went to Ohio State, I was there last year, and it was massive. I just feel like we are moving in a direction where I understand a lot of these schools want paydays, but you can't keep sacrificing the home game experience that these fans are also paying for. And that's who you're relying on. You're calling the donors. You're calling the fans for donations, and big corporations aren't there. So I just think college athletics is losing sight of the fans. And I hope that we get back to that point where more home and home games matter, because I think it's good for the sport. And I'll add to it, I think what you could see, I talked to Vanderbilt's Clark Lee about this last week. You could see where some of these bowl games that take place after the season maybe start taking place before the season. So you got the Citrus Bowl, first week of August, or the Music City Bowl or the Texas Bowl, you name it. That's how you get more kind of teams together. But again, it goes back to the other point. You're getting rid of home and home games. You got to make a choice.
Trey, one thing for me, if you don't mind, another question. You're right there you mentioned Alabama, and we know the SEC strength for 20 years. What they did before Saban, even with LSU, Florida, et cetera. But what they've done,
LSU
how much
LSU was also Saban.
Damn it, you're right. So what is it like right now in Birmingham or in Tuscaloosa or somewhere in the South where the Big Ten's had a hell of a run? And it doesn't mean the SEC is not very good, but it's got it because they like to kind of, we're a little bit different, right? It means more. What's it like there?
As somebody that grew up in this state, I grew up in Mobile, went to the University of South Alabama. I worked under John Pelfrey, former Kentucky basketball player, when he was the basketball coach down there. So I never really had like an Auburn or Alabama side. I had friends that did and whatnot. So you grow up in this state, and actually, I'm stopping through here essentially on the way down to Destin. And I'll say this: the Big Ten, they're kings. They are rightful kings right now. You see what they did in football, men's basketball, women's basketball. I could go on. They run college athletics at the moment, and they also do it with a paycheck as well. I think, obviously that's perturbed a lot of people in the SEC, but I say to that, tough bleep. It's on you. Yep. Like, you're not being able to stack talent up on the 3 deep any longer and keep them from going to other schools, whether that be in the state of Texas, whether that be Ohio, Michigan, out west. It's just a part of the game now. So when Kirby Smart doesn't have his third stringer that would be a starter at another school, that hurts. And so what you're seeing is I've said it for years. I didn't know why the Big Ten wasn't spending their money. They had a lot of it. Go spend it. They're doing it now, and you're seeing them kind of take over college athletics. And remember, guys, you all know this. It all goes in swing. Like, this is the SEC will come back and win one. The Big Ten will win one. Maybe the ACC, the Big 12. You never know. Something's going to happen. The pendulum is going to keep swinging. But right now, the SEC's down. And if they try to preach anything other than that we are trying to get back to that point, they're lying to you. And by the way, that's okay. Like we again, like the SEC had their run, Georgia winning multiple titles, and Alabama, and we all know the Nick Saban stuff. it's the Big Ten's turn. And I loved the story of Indiana last year. It was great.
It just it's been unbelievable, actually, what Sighetti's done. You mentioned the story about Sorsby, the addiction. You brought up the story. The one you brought about your brother, I got to tell you, Trey, was spectacular. The honor, the legacy of your brother was it was spectacular. I know that was a very difficult time, but that was something else.
I appreciate that, and I hope people, if you do read it, I kept it pinned on my social media profile. It happened while I was in Miami covering the national championship game, and but the biggest thing for me is addiction is something that shows some grace. Everybody is going through something, no matter what kind of facade that they put on. Know that deep down, mental health does matter. We are men. We can talk about it. It's not a bad thing if you're having a bad day. So that's all I would say. And even with Brennan Sorsby, I know it looks a little weird with him suing the NCAA and whatnot, but if he's truly going through something right now, show a little grace in all of this. And I'll just continue reporting the news and hopefully everybody just starts talking a little bit more. I think that'd be good for all of us.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it, Trey. Trey Wallace with us, Outkick and Fox with us on 365 Sports in the chat. Great guest. Get him back again, and we will. It's nice to get Trey on the show today.
Yeah, he was fantastic and a great first spot on this show in particular, and first of hopefully many more to come. Because I think that was an excellent back and forth and fun little chat. And to his point there at the end is. It's absolutely what I've been saying throughout this process of, you can side eye the things, detail wise in the Brennan Sorsby case. And there are some funny, like when you look at all the stuff did you look at that list of like the all the things that were being mentioned that he was betting on? I mean, it's like, dude.
I think I knew everything. No, excuse me. I didn't mean, I thought I knew everything you could bet on, but then I learned a few things that I didn't even know existed.
I mean, it's like Turkish basketball and like just anything he could get his hands on and seemingly he was betting on. And so I don't have any questions lingering. I had very few to begin with. I felt like, clearly a guy who's placing thousands and thousands of bets, like he's got some type of an issue that needs to be dealt with. So that's why I've maintained over and over and over ad nauseum of like, I hope he really is getting help and taking advantage of this window of time where he's got this opportunity. But it's a very real thing. Mental health and addiction, and it comes in all shapes, sizes, and forms, and gambling is one of them, and alcohol is another, and drugs are another, and so on and so forth. I can go down a lot of different roadways. So I definitely commend his message there at the end, and I hope the best for Brennan Sorsby, and I hope the best for anybody going through things. Never too late to say, man, I want to change and do something different, and or hey, I just need you to know, like, I'm hurting, and here's the deal, and that's the way to go, and never be embarrassed by doing that. So really powerful story that he wrote about his brother. And also just a really fun segment there. So, glad to talk to Trey.
And he's going to be next week in Destin with the SEC. I'm going to see if I can get him back on early next week to kind of summarize one of the days down there. When we come back, Matt Fortuna, hell of a writer who covers college football. BYU Director of Athletics Brian Santiago today at 4:30. Craig Smoke, I'm David Smoke. This is the Smoke Show on 365 Sports. Have you heard of the new IRA? Insured Retirement Advantage. The Insured Retirement Advantage is a solution for younger, high-income clients and small business owners who want to save money for retirement, and is a strategy designed to provide an opportunity for guaranteed tax-free income, retirement income, legacy protection, and capital efficiency, all without needing ultra-high net worth status to qualify. In other words, if you're young and you've done pretty well, but you're trying to find ways, and I'm ad-libbing here, to protect what you have or protect more of what you have, contact North Star Funding Partners. You can do that. Their website is northstarfundingpartners.com. Tell them that 365 Sports sent you. Here's a number. I don't give numbers very often because if you're driving, you're not going to write it down. And I don't want you to, because you don't need to take your eyes off the road. And you do listen to us and watch us while you're driving on 365 Sports. But it's 623-256-6902. And if you want to reach out to me however you can, I'll give you that number again. 623-256-6902. North Star Funding Partners and the new IRA Insured Retirement Advantage.
It's in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Spring is here, and so are the savings during Richard Card's Spring into Savings sales event.
Buick Enclave, Envision, and Encore deliver premium quality and unbeatable value. Right now, non-GM owners can save $5,250 on all 2026 Buick Envisions in stock, or save $6,750 on all 2026 3-row Enclaves in stock.
Spring into action and save. Get your next ride at the Spring into Savings event at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
And here we go, this 4 o'clock hour. And Matt Fortuna, the Inside Zone, joins us on 365 Sports and the Smoke Show. And Matt, I got to start with this. Craig later on has a segment where he's going to kind of wrap up some of the playoffs going on in sports. But I did see your Sopranos theme on your timeline last night as the Knicks were getting bludgeoned by the Cavs. Like there were going to people who were going to die, that this game's going to end as bad for the Knicks as it was for a few others. I love that. That was a great touch.
Yeah. I called me 5 minutes earlier. I would have had my Knicks hat on. We could have done a whole segment, but yeah, born and bred New Yorker, obviously a huge fan of that show, being from the East Coast. And there were a lot of analogies when they came back from the dead, the way they did. I'm just glad I got to watch, didn't turn it off and got to watch the end. And hopefully it's a sign of good things to come the rest of the series.
Well, it was amazing. It really was. So, oh my goodness, Big 12, ACC, they're waiting for whatever else the SEC and the Big 10 decide to do. Notre Dame, yeah, they have an ability to make a decision too. So in the end, are we at a stalemate between the SEC, Tony Petitti, Greg Sankey, the SEC, Big 10 and Tony Petitti, SEC and Greg Sankey on the number of playoff teams?
Right now we are. Now, Memorial Day weekend's coming up. The SEC has their spring meetings down in Destin, Florida. And I wonder what we'll hear out of the SEC and specifically out of Greg Sankey's mouth when all is said and done after they all get together. And I say that because if you look at the timeline going back even just like a year ago, it seems like every league's had a different plan for all of this, right? I mean, some wanted 16, some wanted to stay at 12. There was the 2-2 or 4-4-2-2-1-1 format, whatever that was. So it's a very fluid situation. I think we all probably erred a little bit by laughing at Tony Petitti of the Big Ten when it got leaked back in the winter that this was what the Big Ten wanted. And sure enough, Brett Yormark, the commissioner of the Big 12, has come out and said he supports it. Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC, came out last week in Amelia Island at spring meetings and said his league supports it, and they seem to be unanimous in their support of it. The SEC, I wouldn't say it's not harmonious, but there are a lot of wild cards in that league. I mean, we've heard Danny White, the AD from Tennessee, come out and say he favors 24. We've heard several others come out and say they favor 24. Greg Sankey, the commissioner, has been pretty resolute, stubborn, whatever the word you want to choose for this, in that his belief is it should be 16 teams. So Greg Sankey is nothing if not a very sharp commissioner who listens to his clientele, listens to his constituency. He's been in this seat longer than anyone else in college athletics, has been in a similar seat at the Power 4 level. And if it's overwhelming from the presidents, the ADs, to the coaches on down, that they want 24 teams, not 16, then I think that is the way that the SEC will ultimately go. But we'll have to wait and see. It felt like 16 was a foregone conclusion at the end of last season, and they could not agree on 16. Now, all of a sudden, it seems like everyone but the SEC agrees on 24. It's never as simple as they all try to make it out to be publicly. But I do wonder if Greg Sankey's tone changes by the end of next weekend.
So, Matt, you wrote on your Substack on the Inside Zone that people can go and check out. You wrote about Jamie Pollard a little bit and the comments that he had that seemed to really ruffle some feathers and just kind of poke or get everybody's attention here this week when he basically just said, hey, if you guys want to go do your own thing, then go do your own thing. And he called their bluff for all intents and purposes is how I sort of viewed it of, y'all are going to do it, go ahead and go do it. And I think there's a lot of questions about whether or not that's even doable, but just the fact that he kind of said that everybody had a big opinion on it. What was yours? Did it stand out to you what he said? And if so, in what way?
I loved it. I mean, as a media guy, like I love the candor, right? Tell me how you feel. Don't sugarcoat it. And the pleasure of writing about someone who's been in one job for 22 years, who's 61 years old, and who probably, I'm not saying he doesn't have career aspirations, but he's not looking for his next job. Iowa State is home for him, which is probably more than you could say for a lot of other people in a similar situation right now. He's probably at that point of his career where he's like, I'm just going to tell it like it is, and I don't really care about the consequences. Barry Alvarez comes to mind when I think of guys who are of that ilk, when they've been in one job for so long that they tend to throw their weight around a little bit. I loved it. I mean, we've spent how many years now of pretty much everyone in college athletics walking on eggshells because they're afraid of the big bad Big Ten and SEC and, what are they going to do? And yet we haven't even had a full year, I think, of the CSC right now, which was supposed to revolutionize the way college athletics is governed. And no one likes it. They're all tired of it. They can't figure this out. So I appreciate Jamie Pollard's candor. I like that he essentially called their bluff and said, go ahead and do it. I'm not sure we get enough of that in college sports. There's a lot of bark and not a whole lot of bite. And I think he's right. I mean, not saying there aren't smart people in the Big Ten and the SEC, but I think us in the media, the fans, we view it through the lens of football and men's basketball, the revenue producing sports, especially in the Big Ten. You're looking at multiple schools that have 30 plus sports. Is that going to work? I don't know. And I'm not sure the maths correctly if you really get down and dirty with it.
Is there anything that Jamie said that could come back to hurt Jamie Pollard, Iowa State, any of the teams that really have to wait for everybody else to make a decision?
I'm thinking of what was the New York Post headline. What are you going to do? Stab me? Said man who got stabbed. Like, I don't, not to be too dramatic about it, but I don't see the harm in him saying how he feels, right? The guy is about to be the longest tenured Division I FBS athletic director. I think what he said is not in the minority, right? I think a lot of people in the Big 12 and in the ACC and elsewhere outside of the Big 10 and SEC feel that way. And Jamie Pollard kind of gave a voice to those people. So look, if the Big Ten and SEC wake up tomorrow and say we're going it alone and we're going to give it a try, sure, we'll all dunk on Jamie Pollard on Twitter, but I don't see any like severe consequences. They're not going to make a move just because the Iowa State AD called him out publicly.
And hell, I'd give him some credit and slap him on the back and be like, great job. At least you kicked this thing forward and we can get on,
exactly.
Whatever else this thing's going to look like. At least we're making some progress here. Matt, where do you sort of find Notre Dame at this point in time, just in this whole ecosystem where they clearly are not relinquishing their independence, no matter how many people on Twitter are convinced this is the time that they're going to give it up and they're going to go join the Big Ten or whatever, particularly with the details that are being floated about what the future looks like? Does this just dig them even further down into their trench of independence in your mind? And where do they sort of fall as far as the benefits and what have you when it comes to an expanded playoff and all that comes with this?
Yeah, I wrote the second that they were surprisingly left out in favor of Miami last year. I wrote immediately like, hey, this is terrible if you're a Notre Dame fan. I hear you. Do not overreact as far as like what this should mean for the future of the program and its position in college football. Like they started 0-2, they almost got in, they didn't. It stinks, but it's not like this grave injustice, and it doesn't portend what's going to happen to this program, years into the future. Well, the next day, Pete Pavakwa, the AD, comes out and basically says there's irreparable harm that's been, irreparable damage that the ACC has caused to us, yada, yada, yada. And then he kisses and makes up with Jim Phillips, the commissioner, like a week later. And everything seemed copacetic last week, reading what was being reported out of ACC spring meetings. So, look, the ACC has its own problems, right? Like, I know Notre Dame, in theory, could make or break the ACC. I think the ACC and pretty much every conference that's not the Big Ten or SEC will probably meet its ultimate demise sometime in the near or distant future, irregardless whatever Notre Dame decides to do. But I think Notre Dame's in a good place right now. I mean, you look at the schedules, you look at the inventory, which, I think everyone thought when all these conferences started going to 9 conference games that there'd be less room at the table for Notre Dame. But Notre Dame's such a big draw, both for TV perspective and for attendance-wise. And if you continue to expand the playoff, I mean, I was doing the math earlier this week when Notre Dame was talking about wanting to do a 2014 playoff. I mean, every single Marcus Freeman team, including the first one, which went 9-4 and wasn't great, played with a backup quarterback all year, would have been in the playoffs. So you're sitting great right now if you're Notre Dame. It stinks that you got left out last year, but this year's team's got a chip on their shoulder. They've got a top 5 roster, and they're going to go make a run at a national championship this season.
Matt, college football has never been more popular. The numbers and ratings and all of that, massive. And yet a lot of people are fighting for turf, when the turf is money and the turf is power and all of that as well. In the end, the NFL became a 12-month-a-year sport. Every month they got something. Is college football pretty close to that now with what's going on, and not just because of all the lawsuits and legal issues?
Yes. And selfishly, as a media guy, I love it. Like, I'm sorry, complain all you want. I'm not dismissing the problems, but it's great for content, right? I mean, it used to be there's a season and everyone, all of your friends, all of my friends who are not in media and don't cover the sport would say, what do you do in the offseason? It's like, well, there's a little bit of recruiting, there's signing day, then there's spring football. Now it's pretty much year round with tampering, the transfer portal, lawsuits, you name it. And look, I love it. I love Dabo Swinney getting up there and calling out Ole Miss for poaching one of his players and giving a play-by-play of how it went down. Like, I love that stuff. And quite frankly, I think the fans love it. Now, I do worry if there isn't some kind of formulaic solution, if you will, to just keeping rosters stable, that this could go the way of college basketball, which, look, as great as high level of the season was this past year, as great as it was to watch. I've been on the court for the last 2 men's Final Fours. Like, those championship celebrations are not what they were even 5-10 years ago, right? Like, it's a bunch of mercenaries who get on the court and go win a championship. And that's not to knock them. That's not to knock those schools. But you don't have that same fan connection that you had with maybe a Virginia in 2019 that lost as a number 1 seed to a 16 seed a year earlier, had the majority of its roster come back and fought through some adversity to ultimately do the unthinkable. Like, I don't want to get to a point where we lose those stories, those competitive on the field stories where the stakes really matter. I don't think we will, but as far as like concerns about the future, I forget which Big Ten AD said it this week out in California, but he said something to the effect of, we keep saying it's unsustainable and yet things are thriving, right? Like, when's the money going to run out? Like, it seems like that just keeps being an empty threat. So I think it was Jim Smith from Maryland who said that. So I'm kind of with him with that. Certainly there needs to be a little bit more structure and order, but I love it, man. I really do.
I know you got to go. It's unsustainable, and yet they're $700, $800 a night hotel rooms in wherever they were in the Big Ten. But that's the way it's been for a long time. I thought that kind of cracked me up. Matt, great stuff. Hope to have you on again. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you soon.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Matt Fortuna with us, Inside Zone and college football writer and reporter. And it was funny. He was showing the Sopranos, two guys that got knocked off the last episode of the Sopranos, and he was looking at the Knicks. And Craig will have an update on the NBA and NHL, et cetera, during Off the Radar today, a little bit later on in the show.
What characters were they?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask that. We'll go to this one right here. Hold on. Well, that was such a great series. That's one of those that I can pick up at any time. Let's see.
Did you actually watch the full Sopranos?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Oh, you did?
I did. Unfortunately, it's going about as well for the Knicks tonight as it did for Christopher and Bobby in the final season.
Okay. So would you have been able to name Christopher and Bobby?
I would have
Christopher
named,
Maltasante?
I wouldn't have had their last name, but I know both of those guys.
Okay.
Yeah. If JK, the Knicks are more like Valerie from Pine Barrens, digging the hole. Just one after another. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, you lost me with the Pine Barrens thing, but I really enjoyed Sopranos, and to see a couple of the guys, Christopher and Bobby there was about what you'd expect, I think, from a Knicks crowd. You also got Spike Lee, of course, amongst the various other luminaries, Ben Stiller, and kind of the usual suspects. But what a win for the Knicks last night. We can talk a little bit about that. I'm not going to talk in depth about that game itself, but just it'll be amongst some of the results we talk about in the scheduling and whatnot that I'll get to here in a little bit.
Yeah, I went to bed. I didn't see the ending. I woke up to an article on theathletic.com about it. Rez, can we dial up Jamie Pollard and then break and come back with Brian Santiago? You okay? So we mentioned this during Tuesday's show, Jamie Pollard with a meet gathering with all of the various members of the Iowa State Athletic Department, coaches, et cetera, and basically the frustration about how everybody put money and time into the College Sports Commission, et cetera, and then people are blowing right by it or complaining about it. So he went off, and the response for the most part was who you thought the response would be from. Those who are not a part of the Big Ten or the SEC were like, damn, that's awesome. Be careful, but that's awesome. And then some like, hell, you don't matter. He then was asked last night by Jack Leto, who works in television in the Iowa area. Here's Jamie Pollard asked about clarifying, if you wanted to, the statement about the breakaway and just let those big boys go.
What I was referencing is just frustration with, we all agreed to spend a whole bunch of money to create a system with the CSC to move forward in this new era. And, two of the conferences just clearly don't want to follow what they created, which is just perplexing to me because it just makes a waste of money and a waste of everybody's time. So that mine was said more out of frustration. I said it was kind of draconian, but just leave then. Quit talking about it.
Okay, so you're not asking the Big Ten and SEC commissioners to leave?
No, I'm asking them to follow the rules that they agreed to participate with.
Can you give us some examples of things you've seen that's not above board?
Well, we entered into a settlement, a $1 billion settlement for college athletics that said there was going to be, a cap and revenue share, and the cap became the floor.
Yeah, the cap became the floor. I read an article, and I wish I could remember. Maybe it was Seth Emerson or someone wrote an article about Michael McCann, Seth Emerson writes sports for theathletic.com. Michael McCann from McCann Sports Law, and I now know more about sports law writers, et cetera, than ever before. He basically said, as the SCORE Act punted, it's gone, I propose a different solution for college athletics. How about colleges follow the NCAA rules? No fake NIL. No incentivizing lawsuits to extend eligibility for many years. No bill in Congress can cure the underlying problem that you, the NCAA's brethren, the teams, the programs, certain schools, ADs, coaches don't follow the damn rules. I loved it.
Yeah, I think I'm just confused and feel like I'm living in a bizarro world here because I'm hearing you talk about the Sopranos and him being careful about what he's saying, and this reporter's like, well, are you sure? And this and that, and it's like, what do you guys think he's supposed to be scared of? That they're going to leave him behind? Well, if they're going to do that, they're going to do that anyway. So I don't think like this reaction to like, oh my God, like, does he have security full time? Like, I mean, I don't know what people are expecting.
Greg, you know that a lot of that's just a reaction to it.
I know, but like,
I love what he said. I wish more would actually be honest about how they felt like he was. Yeah.
Right. I know some of it's probably in jest, but also it's being mentioned enough that there's people like, well, like, dude, are you sure? Yeah, he knows exactly what he's saying. And what he's saying is absolutely 100% right. So like, what are we tiptoeing around here? And what are you scared of? Like that they're going to actually do what he suggested? Like, well, you know, we were going to all stick together and we were going to all operate and we were going to have a 2014 playoff. But then that damn athletic director from Iowa State opened his mouth. So now we're going to just can that whole idea and we're going to go separate and create a whole new entity by ourselves. Like, that's not happening. So if that's going to happen, it's not going to be because Jamie Pollard said something at some meeting. It's going to be because that was in the plans all along. So screw tiptoeing around the obvious, which is all that he's saying there. And there's nothing controversial about what he said.
You know why? Because you don't see many people actually say what he says, especially if they're not the big bad wolf.
Well, clearly, based on the reaction to it of like, oh, wow.
I think that's a little bit more. I think people are like, yeah, because they don't hear people say that.
Well, I'm talking about like the whole, like, are you sure you're saying that? Are you sure that's what you're saying? And then the whole other side of it is clearly people who are team tribal, whatever, in this case, the Big Ten or the SEC, and feel like, well, he's talking bad about us, so we got to be mad at him. Like, no, he's just rightfully pointing out that you have this issue with not following the rules, even though you're part of creating the rules. And we're all saying we want to follow rules. And we're all saying the big problem is that we don't have enough rules. And so then we go make rules and then we apply those rules. And the moment those rules are in effect, you don't want to follow the rules. So to circle all the way back around, yeah, that is the problem. And if you want to just constantly break the rules that you set for yourself because you just can't help yourself, then yeah, you do need to go start something else. You need to go create a league where there's no salary caps and there's no rules and everybody can just Wild West this S and do it that way. But go do that. I encourage, go do that. We'll probably suffer some monetary harm over at Iowa State. Maybe we're still a part of it in some way, but we don't want to do that anymore. We want to do like the real college sports thing that we're all attempting to do, which is to have some stuff that makes sense. And every time we get there, somebody inevitably from insert blank school here decides we don't like that because that's going to cost us a 5-star. So we're going to go to our local judge and get this overturned. Even though 2 weeks ago you were leading the charge and saying that you want rules. It's stupid. It's total insanity because it's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So yeah, the schools are doing this whole gaslighting thing where the rules are the problem, and yet the people who don't follow the rules are the schools. So yes, it's a big circle that we go in, but he said nothing but the blatant pure truth of the matter, which is that things don't get done or followed because the schools won't follow them. And that's not debatable. That's not a direct shot at the SEC and the moral of the fan bases or the Big Ten. And it's not a personal knock of they're all bastards and terrible people. It's just, no, quite simply, everybody says they want rules, then we need to follow them. And if you don't want to follow them, then go break off and do some new league with new rules and have fun with that. Because I don't think it's as easy as Peter45 on Twitter seems to think that it is. Because, well, he doesn't know what that would take to actually go and do that. And then I think that's why part of calling the bluff is also very interesting because, yeah, go do that. I want to see what that looks like because I'm not so sure it's exactly what you think that it would be. I think there's probably part of that to a different, smaller degree about what he's saying as well. If there's some like unique interest in, yeah, go do it, and we'll probably suffer from it. But I want to see if you actually can go pull that off the way that you act like, because you hold this over our heads like it's this sure thing. You'll break away and take all the money and all the ratings, and we'll all die off and we'll be just forgotten about. I don't think that's necessarily the case, and I don't think it's as easy as said and done. So I commend him for just saying the genuine feeling of like every college football fan out there who's not playing the tribal games.
Yep, and there's more that actually are not a part of the guerrillas and all of that. That he has a lot more people who say, "Thank God somebody said that." Brian Santiago, the AD at BYU, will join us in the next segment. What a nice run it's been for the Cougars since they joined the Big 12, and basketball was fantastic. Kalani Sitake, one of our favorite people, the football team, and much more. And we'll discuss BYU athletics and college athletics with Brian Santiago of BYU. He's next. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Ted Teague, CEO and general manager. Ted involved in so much around the community. They were and are and have been for 15 years one of the sponsors of our annual Academic All-Stars program that gives back to student athletes who excel in the classroom, not just in athletics. The all-new 2026 Jeep Cherokee, they excel with that too. Arrived at Alan Samuels and bringing legendary Jeep capability, impressive hybrid efficiency, an estimated 37 miles per gallon, and over 500 miles of driving range. Now, I went and filled up my car with gas earlier today. It was $56. I don't usually look at it, but I know there's a difference right now with gas prices up. $56. 500 miles range on the 2026 Jeep Cherokee. You can get that right now at Alan Samuels, and of course the hybrid efficiency that goes with it as well. The declaration of deals happening now on and at Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Ram trucks honored every year. They've got a bunch of them. It's always intimidating when you have a pickup truck kind of come flying up behind you, and I believe you, I get into that competitive mode. But usually when I see that Ram logo, I'm like, oh, I'm screwed. I'm not going to be able to keep up with this guy or girl. And then, of course, you have the Jeep, the Wagoneer, Cherokee, Grand Cherokee, and a fantastic variety of pre-owned cars on the lot, too. It's Alan Samuels, David Gray, the general sales manager. It is Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the Smoke Show. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with David Smoke and Craig Smoke.
We will have BYU Director of Athletics Brian Santiago momentarily. Tonight, it's late afternoon, early evening in Surprise, Arizona, just outside of Phoenix. Last night, BYU blew out Texas Tech. Baylor is now next. That game is the first game on the docket tonight at Surprise Stadium in Surprise, Arizona. K-State beat Utah 9-5, and up next is now TCU. They'll play the nightcap tonight at Surprise Stadium. Whoever wins between BYU Baylor will have the number 1 seed Kansas next tomorrow. And whoever wins between K-State and TCU tomorrow will get the number 2 seed in red-hot West Virginia Mountaineers. So there's an update going on in college baseball. One other note, this is something that came down. The NCAA has received a formal recommendation to become flag football, to become an NCAA championship sport, projected to have the first championship, Craig, in 2028.
Well, it's a very popular, fast-rising sport. I know we've heard that about other sports along the way, but it does feel like flag football's picked up a lot of momentum and a lot of steam here. It's a great alternative sport for female athletes in particular that obviously don't have regular tackle football. So it's taken off, and I think that's a fun new option for athletes to have available to them. And we know it's going to be incorporated in the Olympics, and that's something that certainly is going to bring about a new wave of popularity as well when the games hit LA. So, I think there's been a lot of attention on that sport here of late. We've seen others get promoted like acrobatics and tumbling to NCAA status here as well. And I think the earliest I saw there could be a flag football natty would be like 2028, which is not that far away, a couple years away. I'd be very curious to know who ends up being really good at those sports, like what programs end up being the standouts of flag football early on. So this is for women in particular. It's not men's flag football. I don't know where that stands or where that is in the ether of possibilities or even thought, quite frankly. But it's another great option, especially for trying to balance Title IX. Maybe if Iowa State had known this was coming down, or they had a couple years they could wait, they might have added flag football as opposed to what they do, wrestling or something like that.
Women's wrestling. Women's wrestling. That's what they did. So there we are with that. That's one of the notes from the NCAA, just as we've seen the shift. You mentioned acrobatics and tumbling, and it is now starting next year going to be official. And of course, Oregon was like one of the first big boys big girl programs. And then the coach, Felicia Mulkey, moved to Waco, and they've won like 10 or 11 of those titles. They don't go as NCAA championships, however, but they will starting effective next year.
And they just better hope that she can continue to pile up titles, because they could add like 10 national titles. I don't know if she'll be around for another decade, but had those counted as NCAA titles, I mean, I think they'd have more of those than any national championship combined in every other sport. So, that's definitely an area they feel like they can hang some banners, but there'll be a lot of other challengers, I'm sure.
And then some schools will start to see that's the case, and they'll start to recruit a little bit more, passionate. We're now joined by the Director of Athletics at BYU. Brian Santiago joins the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with David and Craig Smoke. And Brian, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Tonight, you got a little baseball game to be paying attention to, don't you?
Yeah, we're excited. Our baseball team's at the Big 12 championships. Had a big win last night against Texas Tech, and a good matchup today with Baylor.
So when you have, like, for example, Graham Rossini at Arizona State, all of a sudden their softball team makes this great run. They're in Austin. Baseball team, of course, is in Phoenix. And who you have somebody that obviously can get you where you need to go, but at times you got to pick and choose which one you're at.
Yeah, we always have to pick and choose, but we've got a golf team right now that just made a great run today that advanced to the national championships. There's so many good things happening, and this time of year, you're just excited that your team's still rolling, still playing, and certainly in the Big 12, as challenging as it is, night in and night out. I'm just always thankful that our teams are playing at this point.
You got Notre Dame on your schedule. How big a deal is that for BYU and for Notre Dame?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think for reasons way bigger than sport. Super appreciative. Pete Bavacqua has been great to work with, and we really had kind of a unique opportunity, a unique window. You guys know that trying to put together a football schedule in this day and age is not easy. It happens way out in advance, and the fact that this all came together, that it fit the window that it did, we both believe that it's the start of something great for our two institutions, both of us faith-based institutions. We believe it's going to bring a lot of positive light to both places, and a huge add for our schedule, especially in light of strength of schedule and trying to get into the CFP, to have two premier programs playing at that point. We're super excited about it.
You obviously have a few games before that, and we'll see kind of where the lay of the land is by the middle point of the season. But you guys are well known for the incredible home crowds and the atmosphere. And I don't know if I'm just going off of vibes. I think if I could just pick one game to go to see a crowd, it might be that Notre Dame game. I just feel like while there's a long way to get there, that's just going to be an unbelievable atmosphere.
Yeah, I hope you guys find a way out here. It'll be one of the great home game experiences maybe ever at LaVell Edwards Stadium. We've had some amazing games through the years, but our fan base so excited to have Notre Dame coming to town. Certainly Notre Dame travels well wherever they go. Two incredible institutions. But the reason I think it's going to be so exciting, and I think you guys allude to it, there are games before it. You got to give a huge amount of respect to Kalani and to Notre Dame as well. I mean, the last 2 years, what Kalani has done in creating momentum for our BYU football program, the culture that he's built, the success with nobody expected us to do what we've done the last 2 years. It's a huge tip of the cap to Kalani, his staff, and to our student athletes. They've done an incredible job. Amidst some, challenges, they've just found a way to rise up and be great. And the last 2 seasons, they built incredible momentum for our program, a program that's got a storied history. But what they've done the last 2 years, I'm just super impressed with Kalani, how he's just built and tied to our fan base in a super unique way. I talk about Kalani, you talk about LaVell Edwards, the way that those two connect with Cougar Nation. Obviously, LaVell connected with Cougar Nation forever. The way Kalani's connecting with Cougar Nation, that fan experience at BYU is second to none. Our fan experience team, David Almodovar and his guys, just unbelievable what they're doing. It's so exciting to be in that stadium. It's funny, I've had a couple of ADs even hit me and that came and played us going, what's going on in the stadium? There's like an electricity. People don't want to leave. I'm like, yeah, this is pretty special. We're super grateful for the connectivity between Kalani and our program and Cougar Nation. It's awesome.
Yeah, and he's one of our absolute favorites to talk to. We look forward to every chance we get to talk to him. And obviously there was some kind of shakiness towards the end of last year, the coaching carousel and just all that was going on with that. Ultimately, he's still at BYU and everybody celebrates that move. But while I know you can't dive into the nitty gritty of it all, just how crazy of an experience for a guy who's still a relatively new athletic director in that position, dealing with such a massive challenge. What was that experience like for you looking back on it here a few months later?
Yeah, certainly the timing of that experience was super unique. We were right in the middle of a run to the Big 12 championship. Certainly there was some angst, but I always feel like relationships are super important in all this. And Kalani ultimately made a huge choice to be at BYU. And the fact that he chose BYU with all the attention, all the interest, certainly with opportunities being thrown at him at some pretty prestigious places, the fact that he chose BYU for all the right reasons, that we were able to come to a place that actually makes him feel valued for a long time, and he's going to be our football coach for a long time. Man, that was super, super important to have that happen and have him make that choice, especially leading up to that championship game. It just kind of gave another bolt of energy to Cougar Nation, that someone of Kalani's stature, there's obviously always interest in Kalani. He's one of the best human beings in the game. He's an incredible football coach. He's an incredible leader. He's so tied into these players. He's so tied into the culture of BYU. He's so tied into who we are, and he's beloved here. And the fact that he chose BYU, super grateful for the time that we've spent together. I was here with Tom Homo when we hired Kalani 11 years ago. That was a very pivotal moment where we made a great choice. And since then, it's just been, climbing the mountain together. And the feelings we had then, the feelings we had again when he chose BYU again, we're just super grateful that he's at BYU. He's the best in the business. He's the best fit we could possibly have, not only as a football coach, but tied into the mission of this great university.
He's very humble, and he's also not an excuses guy. So we've asked him, for example, we bring up the importance of the scheduling of a team like Notre Dame and the impact that could have in a variety of different ways. You guys are banging on the door of the CFP, unlike any other team. I mean, just hammering on the door of the CFP, and it feels like there's just a little bit of a lack of respect and a little bit of a lack of belief these last couple of seasons. I know he's not one to make excuses for, but kind of how do you guys analyze how close you are, and what are the conversations like about just where BYU finds itself so close to getting that postseason nod?
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about Kalani is his response is let's go be great. Very similar to when we were trying to find our way into a Power 5 at the time, now Power 4 conference. When it didn't happen the first time, our resolve was let's go be even better. Let's go chase greatness, doing it in a very unique way, the BYU way, and let's be so good that we're ready. They're ready the next time the opportunity comes. We're so grateful to be part of the Big 12. And it's kind of what Kalani's resolve has been, knocking on the door of the CFP. We felt like we were very deserving. We felt like our players, the wins that we had, we felt like we were very deserving. But rather than make excuses or try to hammer on, hey, if there's bias, which at times it's easy to say there may have been bias, but what do we do to overcome that so there's no question left? And that's what I love about Kalani, the people that he surrounds himself with. He retained his roster. These guys chose to stay with them. We went into the portal and got some key pieces. And I just love that his vision for this is, hey, let's go be even better. So the next time around, we don't leave it up to a choice. We leave it up to our play speaking for itself. And we're going to keep on. We're playing the long game. The other thing that I love about Kalani, he doesn't want to be a blip in the map for a couple of years. He wants to play the long game and be great for a sustainable future. And that's what we're trying to do, is build and chase greatness in a very unique way with Kalani at the head. And I believe that we've set a foundation and built on a very, very successful foundation of BYU football for a long time. And I'm really excited to see where things go. Certainly in any pursuit of greatness, you got to overcome adversity. You got to overcome things that maybe the ball doesn't bounce your way. We're just going to keep chasing it. We're going to do it the right way. And we're super excited about the momentum that's been created in our football program for our athletic department by Kalani and these guys. I mean, it's awesome week in and week out to be part of the national conversation. And we're going to continue to do things the right way, make sure we're in the conversation for a long time to come.
You know, and Brian, the way you say that, the way Kalani and what his commitment and vision is really what the Big 12 needs. The Big 12 well, Texas Tech has taken a big jump, and Arizona State 2 years ago. The Big 12, this is what we need other teams in the conference to follow the lead. And some have had their moments, but I think it's a great story, and what you guys have brought to the conference has been pretty damn good. Excuse me, I mean, it really has. We haven't even talked about Kevin Young and basketball, but it really is something that other schools in the conference, I think, want to do. Now they have to just go do it.
Yeah, 100%. We want to make sure that we are elevating the conference across the board, and that's what, for me, I try to remind people. 2 years ago, we were picked almost dead last in the conference, and we tied for the regular season championship. Then last year, we lose our quarterback two months before the season starts, and Bear Bachmeier comes on the scene. The stability of the program to elevate again in the midst of adversity that I was talking about, that is a tribute to the culture that Kalani's built, and it does elevate the conference as a whole. And I couldn't agree more. The more that we can do, the more that other universities are doing to try to elevate the conference, that's super important as we prepare for the future of college athletics. The Big 12 has a storied history, and we're just hoping that we can continue to do our part to elevate across the board what we think is a great fit and a great conference for us. We love what Brett Yormark's doing. That guy's a go-getter, 24/7, doing everything he can to elevate the conference. And I think all of us sitting in the room are like, hey, we've got to look around and say, how do we continue to elevate? And we certainly are super, super excited about what our programs have done coming into the Big 12, feeling like we've competed at the top right from the get-go.
So there is a massive amount of topics we could get into just in the state of college sports, and I'll spare you that because I know you get asked about like probably things ad nauseum, but just in general, as somebody who's been around college administration for a long time, everything's kind of messy and people are trying to put things back in boxes and it leaks and whatever, but just kind of how would you generally assess sort of where you feel like everything is, where you feel like BYU fits into this, and just your thoughts on where you think the best place to be headed is as far as an enterprise goes?
Yeah, I think that's a great comment and a great way to piece it together. It's a unique time in the history of college sports. I think we're seeing things that even 3-4 years ago, nobody ever even ventured to believe that we could be dealing with these sorts of challenges. What we're going to do at BYU is we're going to stay true to our mission. We're going to stay true to our the excellence that we've built, and we're going to try to stay consistent in doing things the right way and preparing ourselves and being the very best we can be. We want to chase greatness and national relevance. We want to do it in a super unique way, the BYU way, and make sure we stay true to our mission. We have a unique mission. As you all know, the governing board of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the sponsoring institution for our university, and we've got 100 years of greatness to stand on the shoulders of. And so we're going to try to be and continue to chase greatness the BYU way, make sure that we're nationally relevant. When I say the BYU way, we're going to try to stay true to our academic mission. We're going to try to stay true to our focus on the Savior, Jesus Christ. We're going to try to do things and make sure that we're controlling what we can bring to the table. And we feel like if we continue to be nationally relevant, do it the right way, no matter how college athletics plays out the next 3, 4, 5 years, we feel that we're going to be strategically in a space where we're going to be a super important asset. The other part of our unique mission, guys, especially in the light of what's happening in collegiate athletics, we strive to make sure that financially we're viable, operate on a balanced budget. We do not lead out with money, nor are we going to try to get into a situation where we compromise the budget and the principles that we've been taught about living within a balanced budget. We operate in the black. We do not go into debt. We try to make sure that we're in a budgeted system where we can be viable within the parameters that we've been given from our great university. So in a world where there's a lot of pressure to try to keep up, we're going to try to stay true to our principles. Certainly, we understand the nature of collegiate athletics. We need to make sure that our student athletes feel valued. We need to make sure that we stay in the game, but we're going to do it in a way that's aligned perfectly with the university and with our governing board.
Brian, Dave McCann has joined us many times, and I know you guys sit down and spend time together talking BYU athletics and much more. And he was sharing some of the things, like the first month you were on the job, you had the Jake Retzloff story, and you had to pivot, and what Bear Bachmeier and Kalani Sitake and everyone else did was amazing. And then Craig brought up the Kalani Sitake near the end of last year with what Penn State was trying to do. Your coach, Kevin Young, what he's done. You had a slew of great young players and athletes across the board when it comes to from A.J. DeBance to Bear Bach to whoever else. It's been now 53 weeks, Brian, since you were named the AD. 53 weeks. Is that a blur or is that a long marathon up a hill? What's that been like for you?
No, if I'm honest, it's been a blur. It's been incredible. I come to work every day with what I believe are the best coaches and student athletes in the country. It's invigorating. And one of the things that I was prepared for, especially with 20 years alongside Tom Holmoe, is that there are going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be turbulence. Now, certainly, I didn't know it was going to happen that quickly. Okay, I mean, I think it was 2 or 3 days into the job. I'm sitting with Kalani in his office. We're talking about all things football and where we're going, and we found out when everybody else did about a tough situation for Jake Retzloff. But guys, here's what's amazing about this place, and here's what's amazing about Kalani, is in that situation, there are a lot of different ways to approach that. From right in the first moment, we just looked at each other and said, hey, we'll do the right thing here. And so I'm going to fast forward quickly because I'm not going to go through all the details, but I look at the Jake Retzloff situation, and in a lot of ways, we wrapped our arms around Jake. It was a super tough situation where he ultimately made a choice to transfer out with only 1 year of eligibility, knowing that there would likely be a suspension, and knowing that he wanted to pursue his football career. Well, the things that people maybe don't and aren't aware of is that we made sure and helped him graduate before he left. We made sure that we made good on our contractual agreement with him in those moments. Jake left here with a positive feeling about his teammates at BYU and about BYU. Went and had an incredible year at Tulane, and then came back here, wanted to come back here to BYU and do his pro day. He sent it. There was a message that went out to Kalani and to A-Rod and myself saying, hey, what do you guys think about Jake Retzloff coming back and doing his pro day at BYU? And in about 10 seconds, it's yes, yes, yes. Like, let's go. How great is it that in a difficult situation like that, we have coaches, everybody's just trying to do the right thing and trying to make sure we pay attention to the human side rather than just the football side. And Jake, now, yesterday, Kalani had his big foundation event, golf tournament, and who's there playing in the tournament? Jake Retzloff. To us, the human element, wrapping our arms around people, making sure that relationships are more important than trying to win. I look at those situations and like you guys say, like, that happened immediately, and you realize as the AD, you're not looking around or calling Tom. Everybody's calling you. And I just was grateful that Kalani and I were in lockstep in that situation. There's so many other people at our university, all the way aligned up through our vice president, president, where we were all aligned. Like, okay, let's do the right thing. Let's make sure that we handle each situation with grace. And I was really grateful how that played out. And that's what gets me excited. It's probably been a blur. It hasn't been a marathon. We've had some tough situations, but I think in every situation, relationships are strengthened. When you go through tough stuff together, people come together. Like, there's a bond. There's a feeling that, hey, you know what? United, we can do things we can do incredible things here. And I feel that way across the board with all of our coaches, our 19 head coaches and these 500 plus student athletes that we get to be involved with. Nothing's ever going to go perfect. In a perfect world, we're undefeated in every sport. We win every national championship, and every kid gets a 4.0 and graduates. The way we look at it is, how do we help lift, build, and empower these student athletes to help them fly, to help them chase their dreams and prepare them to, once they're done with sport, go make a difference in the world. That's a big deal to us. Enter to learn, go forth to serve. We're looking for opportunities to prepare these student athletes for life after sport. That's what gets, I want to say that's what makes my hair grow, but I don't have any hair, but it really does. It really does get my juices flowing to come every day and walk the path with these student athletes and these coaches and help them chase their dreams. But it's been in so many ways, there is so much positive momentum in Provo, Utah at BYU. Our responsibility as stewards of that is to keep the positive momentum going. And if turbulence comes, if challenges come, bond together, unite together, and let's go. Let's go chase our dreams. Let's go chase greatness. And let's keep doing things in a way that'll bring positive light. Ultimately, the mission of our university and to the Savior. That's super important to us, for people to see the goodness. There's just so many things I could jump into. You mentioned Dave McCann. There's just, we all talk about, how do we continue to lift the times that we've all talked? How do we continue to lift and build the BYU brand? We've got a worldwide Cougar Nation that has immense interest in BYU. We're just trying to continue to do good, as the communities we go into, the student athletes that come here. I mean, I'm amazed every day. Something happens every day at BYU that I just look around and say, man, this is an incredible place, incredible people, with incredible stories. And we're hoping that we can keep telling some great stories into the future.
What in your life, you talk about fighting through it, resiliency, getting through things that are not always easy, and there's also times when everything is glorious. But Brian, in your life as an athlete at Fresno State or any other time in your life, when did you learn about being a fighter, about being somebody that was going to grind and get better and make something of not just Brian Santiago, the person, but also as a leader?
That's actually a great question. It can be a super meaningful and thoughtful question rather than just a surface question. But guys, I just have always been taught. My father's a Puerto Rican that grew up in the Bronx, New York. My mom's a farm girl from Tooele, Utah. They both lost their fathers at a very young age, and from an early age, was just taught the power of hard work and the power of believing in people, and trying to lift and elevate those around you. And so at an early age, I just learned not only to work, but to do it. I come from a family, there's 7 of us, 7 children. And we came from a background where we did everything for the whole. It wasn't ever about us. It was about trying to help each other. We had a paper out. We shared the money from the paper out with each other. I have 2 brothers that played basketball at BYU that shared their scholarship check with me when I got off my mission. For me, it's about, how do we make everybody around us better? And no matter what comes at us, I was taught by one of my mentors, my college coach at Fresno State was Gary Colson. One of my sons is named Colson, after my coach. But I kind of live my life and I've always looked at things with 3 little letters times 2. FAW means find a way. No matter what comes at us, we can find a way. And then NLU, that's a little board that my coach made me that is up in my garage, was in my office for a while until we downsized our office space here at BYU, but I keep it in my garage so I see it every day. FAW, find a way. NLU, never let up. A work ethic, I just believe that the Lord rewards effort. I believe that if we put everything into it and we look for opportunities to reach outward and look how we can help everybody else be successful, that we all win. I was a point guard. My dad taught me that an assist is better than a basket.
Mm.
And I've lived that. I've lived it. I always believe that. Some of the guys I play morning ball with now will be like, hey, you might have passed a lot in the past, but now you don't pass very much. I'm trying to make up. But I don't want to digress. I was taught those correct principles, and I really believe in that. And I did. I got more excited my whole career in making an assist than I did making my own basket. And I believe the value of hard work. I believe that if we give everything we've got for the right reasons to elevate and lift other people and ultimately to bring glory to our Savior, Jesus Christ, I've always just believed that things are going to work out. And so that's when you talk about when, if there was a moment or an instant in my career, in my professional career, I just, even in the midst of what we're in right now, I just believe that if we continue to navigate these tricky waters, that everything's going to work out. Let's be our very best. Let's stay united. Let's be together and let's work. Let's work. There's no substitute for hard work.
Brian, thanks for your time. Appreciate John McBride setting it up for you to join Craig and me. We'll talk again soon, and good luck in baseball and also with what's going on with golf too. And we'll see you hopefully if you drop into Frisco at Big 12 Media Days. If you're there, we'll try to see if we can grab you again. Thank you.
I'll be there, and I'd love to spend time with you guys. Thanks for all you do to promote the goodness of sport and the in-depth look that you take for everyone. We appreciate you guys and believe that we're all in this together.
Thank you. You are, and we are. That's Brian Santiago. He played college basketball at Fresno State. He joined Steve Cleveland's staff, Craig, at BYU after they had gone 1-25. He took that as a challenge. And then now, of course, is the director of athletics replacing Tom Homo at BYU.
Yeah, really appreciate his time and his candor and just the conversation. And I think it's a really nice time to be a BYU fan. They were just doing their very best to try to get opportunity to get into a league like the Big 12. And we met a lot of BYU fans during that part of their journey a couple of years ago, and it's turned out to pay off in a tremendous way for the Big 12. I think a lot of the fans have embraced the BYU folks, just the niceness of a lot of the BYU people. And I think more than anything, especially their rival and counterpart, is that they want to be in the Big 12, that they appreciate the opportunity. Whereas I understand it with Utah a little bit because you were in a league that you felt was already that league. And then that league fell apart, and then you had to go do something you didn't necessarily want to do or ever plan to do. And so their angle is a lot different than BYU's, whereas BYU is just thankful for the opportunity and doing their best to try to be a rising tide that lifts all boats. And I think in a short amount of time, they've done that. They've done that in multiple sports. They're about to have the number one pick in the NBA draft, which I know doesn't mean the trickle-down effect of any sorts, but it does tell you, the best player in America last year played at BYU, he played in the Big 12, and he played in this league and various others. And you know what? The number 2 or number 3 player might have been will probably be Darren Peterson as well. So a couple of the top guys are going to be from that league. And then obviously football, the last couple of years, tremendous success. I would have been very interested, and that goes on and on. I'm not going to do the whole summary, but they've more than held their own and then some, I think, so far in the league. And I think are part of the reason why you believe that regardless of wherever this takes us, they've got great leadership and great people in place, and they're going to be in a good spot. And if they're in a good spot, then I think the Big 12 feels like they're in an even better spot as well. But a lot of ground covered there. And I mean, the morbid curiosity in me would have been interested to see, what does it look like if Kalani Sitake is the head coach at Penn State? What would that even look like? Because it's such a strange thing to even imagine up. But I'm glad that in the long run, that was just wondering about what that would have looked like for about 5 seconds. And instead, it's more about the reality of him staying where he's always been for the most part, and where he clearly wants to be, and what they can build off of what he's done there in the last several years, but particularly the last couple where they've been at a very, very high level. And as I mentioned to him, like just banging on the door of the college football playoff the last 2 years, rattling on that door, and you keep knocking. Eventually it's going to expand and you're just going to be in there like every year probably. But yeah, they're a fun program to cover. And we've obviously been big fans of Kalani for a long time. So I'm glad our chats with him will be able to continue on as is, and glad to have some time with their AD as well.
Yeah, he's Brian Santiago, there are times some of the decisions you make that might not be like the most popular, but that's what you get paid to do. And the Kalani Sitake one, getting that one to get done, it was touch and go for a while because Penn State's got a huge tradition, but they kept him. Kevin Younghire was great too. Tom Homo was great to have on, but we appreciate Brian Santiago. We will break here and then come back with the wheel, and we'll have poll questions, quizzes, and much more. Got a couple of other nuggets to get to. Rez, Michelangelo, thank you very much. Weaving through it. Houston, Andrew, Garrett, and Logan, a plethora of great backup of what we do and get us to do and where we're going to go. Craig Smoke, David Smoke. This is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 in the southern part of Waco. $497 or less for a state-of-the-art imaging machine, evidence, photos, pictures, what your doctor needs. I was at the hospital earlier today. I had a sonogram for what they check because I'm on Medicare. My doctors got me an appointment to check my aorta. It's part of being able to do that. And so I went in there, and I was inside the same, there's like a, Baylor Scott & White's a big, big place, wherever they are. But I was in there, and I walked by in one of the, I guess, the buildings that I was in. When I walked out of having the sonogram on my abdomen, my aorta, everything, by the way, test results, everything's clean. It was just kind of something I got a chance to be able to do. Why not? I heard that because there was an MRI going on in one of the rooms that I walked by. And it reminded me immediately, and I was at Baylor Scott & White, but Ideal MRI in what that company does. $497 or less for an MRI. Get your doctor to set it up. They want more evidence of whatever it might be, ligament, muscle, something in your body that hurts and hurts a lot. IdealMRI.com. It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
I have a lot of friends reach out to me about buying vehicles for their fleet and their business, and I always recommend Allen Samuels. You see a lot of businesses running different brands, but I really think Rams are the best looking ones out there. They're going to take care of you. They're going to make sure that you get what you need, and they're always going to take care of you on the service side and the sales side.
Like Allen Samuels always said, Waco has a lot to offer, and so do we at Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoke and David Smoke.
Everybody has a pet peeve. We'll have the wheel, the quizzes, the poll results, and more in a minute. Everybody has a pet peeve. Two of mine, and we have discussed this, is people who do not return their grocery cart to where you return your grocery cart because you're too damn lazy. You put it next to your car, whatever. That's one we've discussed before. This is another one. And I just happened to see this on my feed, and I was like, I got to go into this one. We don't need to take too long, but this drives me nuts. Stay in the right lane. Let people go by you. If you pass somebody and get in the left lane and there's miles or hundreds of yards in front of you to the right, nobody there, get over. What I want to do sometimes, I wish I could just like pull somebody over, act like I'm a police officer, put a fake light on my car, pull them over, and I go, I just have one question. Why are you stuck in the left lane and people are 40 cars behind you? It drives me crazy. Now I feel better that I said it.
Okay, yeah. This edition of Get Off My Lawn brought to you by Weed Eater.
Yeah, the old man, get off my lawn. But it really, I want to know
funny.
who taught them
I
that.
find it funny you're like the Tony Petitti of your gripes because on the one hand, you do not like the sign being ignored, but the other sign that says speed limit 75, I don't think that you always adhere to that sign.
No,
so you're being a little petite here.
No, but they all correlate because that one get the hell over because I'm doing 80 behind you.
No, you're picking and choosing your battles here, but I mean, yeah, I sympathize with that. I think there's people that intentionally do that more than there's actually people that aren't paying attention. I feel like there's definitely the people, whatever psychological, and it is psychological reasons that you would want to just hold up traffic on the highway by intentionally going far less than the speed limit. Yes, there are times when there is a 97-year-old woman who should have had her license stripped like 25 years ago, who's just not aware of her surroundings enough to understand that she's blocking all of I-35 in the left lane. But then there's people that just, you can tell it's like intentional because that's the world that we live in post-COVID. Is like, how can we just piss each other off and not care about anybody else's thoughts or things? Yeah, I think that's one of those I see now a lot of, like almost intentionally blocking the left lane. But there are exceptions. There are times when it's just an old person or it's a teenager listening to their music that's not paying attention, and they can look up all of a sudden in their rear view and realize there's 25 cars stacked behind them just trying to get around them because they're going 55 and a 70. It's maddening. It really is.
It's not even their speed as it is. They're in the left lane and there's no one in the right lane. And they just stay in the left lane.
If they're in the left lane, just go around them then.
No, I know what you're saying, but okay. All right, let's get to that's just a pet peeve of mine.
And I will also say on the grocery carts, I had a standoff with a lady about 3 months ago over this. A woman, totally healthy, totally of age to be able to walk around. She was totally fine going to and fro, that for some reason refused to put her shopping cart up. I called her out on it. Like, she had it sitting next to her car and she had her kids standing next to her. And I pull in the spot next to her. And I'm not kidding you when I tell you, she's on one side of the cart thing. I'm on the other side of the cart thing. And she just leaves her cart
right there.
And it's like, it's right there.
Yeah, no.
It's literally, there's no more spots between you. And like, just do that. And then she tried to pull I'm putting my kid in my car. It's like, okay, I know you're a liar, but okay. And so I sat there rather than go in. I sat there to watch her put her kid in her car. And you know what she did? Rather than just put the cart up, which was right here, she lied about what she was doing because I called her out on it, knowing full well what kind of person she was. And she went and got in her car and just sat in her car. And you know what she did after that? I'm not joking. A man shows up Like 5 minutes later, because I just sat there. I kept listening to the radio because a segment was on. I was listening. That's why I was sitting in my car anyways. And rather than her getting out of her car and just putting the cart up, she lied about what she was doing, lied about that she was going to do it, went and sat in her car, called her husband, who shows up.
Yeah.
I guess he was in the area. He shows up. He comes walking up and he's like, "Oh, I got it." And I'm like, who? He's like, "That's my wife." And I was like, well, I'm glad I didn't call her what I wanted to call her, but it would have fit, quite frankly. And that's the length someone will go to just be a crappy person and just not put their card up. It was,
don't you know, he was
one of the
pissed
most
at her.
Oh, my biggest regret from that whole exchange was not telling him to get a divorce, because no one needs to be married to a person like that. I mean, that you talk about just some of the most selfish, piggish behavior of just being so set in your selfishness that you pathologically lie about what you're doing in regards to putting a shopping cart up, and then you can't just move 2 feet.
Yeah.
It's like, what even
You
kind
talk
of
about
person, how are you
Yeah.
raised?
No.
I just, man, that drove me nuts. It's an exchange I will never forget, because I've seen plenty of shopping carts get left around, but I've never seen somebody be that ugly of a person to just refuse to just follow the guidelines of our unwritten rules as citizens of how we operate. Like, I stop at a stop sign. You know, we stop at red lights. Like, we have these unwritten rules. You put up your shopping cart. If you're handicapped and you can't do it, I understand. That was not her. She was just a pig of a person. So anyways, that shopping cart thing, anytime I hear that now, it triggers me into talking about that story, because it's one of the most maddening things I've experienced in about like 2 years.
Yeah,
it really was.
No, I get it. It drives me crazy. I'm not going to. I think I shared my story about Sam's, where I just parked my cart behind a lady that did not want to put hers up until I put hers up.
That's not at all passive aggressive.
And then, well, it was. And then he put my stuff in.
Of
And then I left the cart and I drove away. She was so pissed off. All right, let's get to the wheel.
That dude really does need to get a divorce if he hasn't already, though. I mean,
He might have. He was going to chew on her ear. All right.
What?
He's pissed at his wife. No, that's like,
I don't get that joke, but nevertheless, we'll move on. When was the last time you used a payphone or even a landline? Gosh, a payphone. It's been years and years and years since I've used a payphone. I couldn't even begin to know when the last time was. Landline was probably at a hotel. I can't think of
that counts.
Any house I've been in where I've used the landline. So yeah, I think it's probably really only at hotels now at this point. So whenever I last stayed in a hotel, last couple months, that would have been it.
Yeah, get some food delivered to the room, or maybe you have to, make a call. But yeah, that's probably the last time for me to landline. The last time I used a payphone would have been, well, it wasn't a payphone. It was at Augusta National. They have those banks of phones because you can't take your cell phone in. And if you are found to have had one or you're caught with one, you're done. You're done. And they have these bank of phones. It's not technically quarters or whatever, but you pick up the phone, you can call anywhere you want. Mine would have been when we were in New York City covering probably the NFL draft, was a little payphone on the corner street. I don't even know why I would have used it. Maybe just because I wanted to try it. Golly, think about it. Quarters. That was fun. All right, that's it.
Yeah, that was great. Having to scrounge up quarters and the 1-800-COLLECT back in the day when you didn't have the quarters and all that. Yeah, no, cell phones definitely relieved us of that headache, but there was something unique about there was something beautiful about not always having a phone. There really was. And I know this is going to turn into old man corner, but I know we can't function that way anymore, but I'm glad I got to experience that. That's my point. I'm glad I got to live that side of life before.
It's like a typewriter,
not knowing anything different. Yeah.
By the way, back to the cart thing from Kim Coulter. If you cannot return your shopping cart, you need to be whipped.
I'm telling this experience of the husband showing up, and I guess he was like somewhere nearby because he was in his own car. So for her to just call her husband rather than just be a person, like. It was almost like chilling, if that makes sense, of like how narcissistic and selfish a person would have to be to go to those lengths to just not put something up that's just an unwritten rule. It's just like, my God, like what damage did you have?
Oh, that's entitlement.
When you were raised and I mean, it's just a simple polite
lazy
gesture.
as F.
But yeah, like so the husband showed up and yeah, my big regret is just telling him like, dude, you got to get out of this thing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you got to get away from this woman. But yeah, anyways.
All
right.
Firefighter, 2 weeks later, she'll probably be pitching a fit in the parking lot when a loose cart hits her Nissan Altima.
I mean, probably. Yeah. I don't remember. I think she might have. I'm trying to think. Maybe she's an SUV. I don't know. I don't know what car was exactly. I was fuming and out to make a point. And, luckily it wasn't a husband that showed up like gun in hand. Cause that crossed my mind after the fact of like, well, that was actually a pretty nice exchange, all things considered, given how she behaves. I'm surprised he was actually somewhat of a gentleman.
Yeah, he might have been he could have been one of those muscleheads. Yeah,
even more reason for him to get out of there because he seemed like a pretty swell guy, all things considered. And I feel sorry for him.
This morning here at a hotel, Kim's in Florida, and he picked up to use a payphone.
And okay.
No, I guess it would have been, I'm not payphone, landline. I'm sorry.
Thanks for the super chat, Kim, as always.
There's a bunch of them. Let's go through those before we get to any of the quizzes or whatever else. From Kim Coulter, great guest. I think that was actually with Trey Wallace back when we had Trey on in the late part of the 3 o'clock hour. Here's another one. Go ahead.
No, he was great. I think a lot of good guests today, but Trey definitely a guy I could see us talking to quite a bit in the future, and covered a lot of ground with him, and really enjoyed that.
All right, who else do we have in the super chat? This from Kim. Nice read. With my North Star Funding Partners live read with North Star Funding Partners. Kim, of course, is the CEO of that business. One other one. We got another one from Firefighter. We appreciate the Smoke Show coverage of the Cougs. Thank you. You're welcome. BYU Cougs.
Yeah. Appreciate you, Firefighter, and been a real treat to talk about BYU these last few years, more than we would have previously, obviously with different arrangements for everybody. But as I said a few minutes ago, they've been a real positive boost to the league. I think they feel that's been reciprocated as well. And I think as much as there's a lot of questions about the future, I think that the kind of things that are in place as far as the Big 12 goes, there's a lot of unanswered questions and everything, but I think there's a great core of teams. And I think outside of like Utah being the we don't want to be here team, everybody else gets along just swell. And the Cougs have been an incredible, fun and deserving addition, and have, as I said once, I'll say it again, they've more than carried their weight and then some as far as what expectations were with them rolling in.
And then also the one with Kim, he talked about the grocery carts, et cetera. Thank you very much, all of you. Whoever, anytime you give us a super chat, we do appreciate it. Now let's get to the quizzes. There are two of them. The first one, in 1916, Georgia Tech beat Cumberland 222-0 in the most lopsided game in college football history. What was John Heisman's primary motivation for ruthlessly running up the score? I read a book about just that game alone. That's back in the day, but
well, I don't think he was getting paycheck bonuses for beating Cumberland back then.
It wasn't because of the outdated playoff system.
So I'd say revenge for baseball loss is very random to the point of that seems like it would be a good answer.
Yeah, because if it's a bet with the governor winning or losing the game, whether it's 60-0 or 222-0, wouldn't matter. Unless there's an over-under, because gambling back then.
That's a good point. Yeah, you're not betting. That would be interesting. Of like the governors are exchanging. If the governor of Texas loses, he sends barbecue and cowboy boots, and if the governor of Washington wins, he sends whatever, rain clouds. I don't know, but you wouldn't bet, but only if they win by 35. You wouldn't do that.
What do you want to use? Which one?
Let's go. I think by process of elimination, the baseball loss.
That's because it's so damn random. Andrew's trying to trick us into we got it right.
John Heisman also served as Georgia Tech's baseball coach. I do remember that. I didn't even take that into consideration, but actually I do remember reading that about him. And he took it personally when Cumberland allegedly used professional ringers to embarrass his squad 22-0 in the spring. When football season rolled around, Cumberland had actually disbanded his football team, but was forced to field a ragtag group of fraternity brothers to avoid a hefty buyout fee. Heisman showed zero mercy, scoring on every single set of downs. So
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Craig,
cool.
You nailed it. We're 1-0 on the quizzes. And now quiz number 2. This month, NFL owners unanimously picked the host city for Super Bowl, whatever that would be, like 65, I think it is. In 2030, which city will host the big game for the first time in state history? And that's Nashville, I believe. Oh, wait a minute.
No, it is Nashville. It's not. They're not hosting the Super Bowl in Philadelphia, Chicago, or Boston. At least right now that I can think of.
Massachusetts has never had a game. Chicago has never had the game, but they're getting a new stadium.
I mentioned this yesterday. Nashville's getting the Super Bowl, and Minneapolis is getting the draft.
You were at the draft in Nashville too. Yeah,
I gave the anecdote about Nashville and having been there and how they've opened up and created this new revenue stream and just this new kind of cool thing where, the draft is now this traveling city to city party, and hell, I think they've covered getting close to half the league now, I would think, with the draft. They're pretty close to it. But, the answer to this one is Nashville is getting a Super Bowl alongside their new stadium.
All right. Answer is Nashville. Following a full ownership vote at the NFL spring meetings in Orlando, it was officially announced that Nashville will host Super Bowl 69?
That's 64.
64. In 2030, makes Tennessee the 12th state to host a Super Bowl, utilizing the Titans' brand new enclosed Nissan Stadium, scheduled to open not this season, but 2027.
9 is IX.
Yeah, I know what IX is.
Yeah, 9 is IX. So that is 64.
God, it's crazy.
I mean, there's going to be a Super Bowl 100.
I went to 27.
I probably won't be here for that one, but that'll be quite the party. It's crazy how high up it's getting, and Nashville's a cool spot. I'm sure that'll be a fun Super Bowl city to be in, and that stadium that they have now, I don't know too much about why the need to change over already, but part of the reason is to get Super Bowls and things like that. So they're landing a Super Bowl, so already that new stadium is getting a return on its investment pretty quickly. And just crazy to think that Jerry Jones has still only had one Super Bowl at AT&T Stadium, just one. And now you have multiple other places like Nashville who will have had the same amount, even though that AT&T was built for at least a couple of Super Bowls. But
because his drive to have more fans ever and all the things and records and glitz and glamour, beautiful place. And then, of course, the weather came in, but that was not it. It was just a freak of a weather.
I do feel like
he had those bleachers fall.
A curse where the worst weather we've had since then, and that was forever and ever ago, was a snowstorm, or the Snowmageddon, where I was without power for like 2 days and really thought I was going to die by freezing. I was without electricity. It was really, really bad and dire, but so were a lot of other people. That's the worst storm we've had since that Super Bowl ice storm that I can recall, at least. And the odds are they would get the Super Bowl again, and we won't have anything close to that. And then they would get it, and then boom, another ice storm would hit. I feel like that's almost like a curse or something that they have. But yeah, Nashville was the answer.
Yeah, that ice storm in 2021.
Ownership voted full spring meeting in Orlando officially announced.
I read that already.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I read that already. That's okay. Chat Nashville. So 2-0 today. Quizzes 2-0. Let's get to the poll results. How many regular season wins will Virginia Tech stack up in 2026?
Have not looked at their schedule. It's going to be a few weeks before I get around to my official prediction on Virginia Tech. So it's hard to say without knowing some of the specifics here. But I think any of the bottom two. I think anything above 9 wins is kind of getting crazy and getting a bit over your skis. But I do think Virginia Tech, as much as anything, is going to be relevant again, and hopefully, bring back those feelings of watching them on ESPN and the lone standalone and. Here comes Enter Sandman and just all the vibes that Frank Beamer had back in the day and Michael Vick and all the rest. Virginia Tech was a big part of like the nostalgia of college football for me, looking back on the 90s and 2000s. And so they've been kind of in the background and almost forgettable, quite frankly, for a while now. And I'm looking forward to them being a team that you're like, yeah, damn right, playing Virginia Tech this week. Like, I'm ready to get back to that, and I think James Franklin's going to bring some of that.
Yep, Beamer ball and what they did, what a great job he did. All right, so I said 8-9. I think that Franklin will make them relevant. And it's not going to happen overnight, but I think he's worth at least a couple of extra wins.
I just did a quick glance. I could see 8 wins. I'd be hesitant to go higher than that, but I could see 8. Yeah.
All right. Now to the final poll result from earlier today from the king of jiu-jitsu and Andrew Valade. College football's most iconic, I like this one, iconic birds, if they got into a fist or wing fight, who are you putting your money on? It's got to be the War Eagle.
Yeah, I mean, it's the War Eagle. Definitely.
The mean son of a bitch when it wants to be.
Definitely taking the War Eagle over Puddles or Sebastian. Does the Jayhawk have an official name? It's escaping me if it does. But yeah, I would take the War Eagle. Pretty easy choice right there.
Yeah, and Eagle, the king of all of them, right? The Duck got 29%. The War Eagle, 44%. I thought that would be much higher,
Big
like in
J.
the 60s.
Big J is the KU mascot. Big J and Baby J.
By the way, Eagles do not actually experience human emotions like anger. But if they want, they will find you and pick you up and fly you into the ocean and drop you on an aircraft carrier. All right.
What
so
are you talking about? Like, what are you even
I've had a long
talking
damn day.
Yeah, I can tell.
In all seriousness, I want to say this to close out the show, not as a downer, but Adam Munster-Tiger. He covers Colorado from BuffStampede.com. We've had him on the show, Brian Howe and others. His wife last night put out a note that he had passed away late last night. The amount of responses to how many people had worked with him, worked for him, and worked in the business with him was unbelievably good. Unbelievable how many people loved him for what the person he was and also the coverage he gave. Even Dion, of course, put out a note. But our thoughts and prayers to the Munster-Tiger family. We did have him on a couple of times, and sorry for a huge loss in the business and also just in general.
That's actually the first I've heard of that. I don't spend a lot of time on social media these days. It's just a personal choice, and I still see things throughout the day and whatnot, but I had not seen that until you actually just mentioned that. And I immediately recognized him. I've watched a lot of videos with him and Brian Howe, learning about Colorado.
Yep.
He was very passionate, very knowledgeable, and they had some good chats that I learned some things about Colorado football from those guys. So that is horrific news and just awful to learn that. And didn't know him personally, but like you said, I think we had him on the show a couple times, but I enjoyed his work and seemed like a swell guy. And so, I'm torn up to hear that, and definitely best wishes. And any positive vibes you can send over that you got left over, please send them to the Munster-Tiger family and anybody affected personally by that news. That's awful to hear that. So I'm very, very sad to know that now. And Godspeed, Adam.
He did a podcast just like a week ago when he has been ill and not in good health from the hospital because of his passion for Colorado football, and joining somebody else's podcast was pretty damn cool. And thoughts to Liz and the rest of the family for Adam and passing away. Thank you, Rez. Thank you, Garrett. Also to Logan, Houston, and Andrew. Thank you, our audience, for what you do every day, being here with us. We love what we do, the content. For Craig Smoke, I'm David Smoke. Tomorrow, back on it, Sam Kahn, Mac Brown, a couple of guests we'll have. This is The Smoke Show on 365 Sports, and good night.